Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto is reported dead after the fight with Zabuza and Haku part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Atop the colossal main gates that lead to Konoha, a Chunin guard watches as three individuals walk down the path. From the way they move, he can tell that they are shinobi. Gesturing to his fellow guards, the Chunin called attention to the three. After brief nods, he jumps down in front of them as they come within 10 meters of the gates. Halt. The guard called, "Who are you and what is your business?" The tallest one, a man with silver hair, steps forward, Team 7 returning from a mission to Wave Country. The guard then noticed the Konoha forehead protector covering the left eye of the speaker and immediately recognized him. "Oh sorry Kakashi, I didn't recognize you for a moment." The Chunin paused and looked at the only visible eye and noted that the normal lazy expression was absent. He then glanced at Kakashi's companions and noticed a lack of a third member. "Where is your other team member?" The look from the two genins was all it took for him to understand. "You should go to the Hokage and report." Without a word, the three tired-looking shinobi entered their home. The Chunin guard watched them go, feeling sympathy for the team. He had lost a member on his team when he was a genin as well. His thoughts were interrupted by his fellow guard landing next to him. "Hey, who was that?" "Genin Team 7, the first guard stated. They lost a member on their mission." "Which member?" the second asked. "Don't know," the first answered. "Did you see a boy with black hair?" a third asked. "Yeah," the first responded, followed by a girl with pink hair. "Good," the second said with a sadistic smile. "Good?" the first asked, angered. "What's so good about it?" Team 7 consisted of the last Uchiha, some no-name girl and him. The third guard said the last part with venom in his speech. "Him?" the first asked. "Him who?" The others two gave him a look and it dawned on the guard who him was. "And to think I was feeling sorry for him a moment ago. Good riddance, he should have been killed years ago." "You're telling me," the second agreed. "To think the last Uchiha had to be teamed up with it. At least now it's gone," the third said, "and the Uchiha won't be dragged down by it." The others nodded in agreement and went back to their posts. There was a knock on the Hokage's door. For a moment the old leader smiled. He hated doing paperwork and someone wanting to see him was a good excuse to stop. "Come in," he called. The people that entered surprised him. Team 7. Only Team 7 was not complete. Waiting patiently for the report, he already knew what the most important part was. "The Kage-sama," Kakashi began, "we have just come back from the C-rank mission to Wave Country that was assigned to us. The mission turned out to be an A rank, which involved missing nin from Hidden Mist. And as a result of the missing nin's former employer, the third member of Team 7, Uzumaki Naruto, is dead." The third Hokage glanced at the two remaining genins and saw their pain. Sakura was barely holding back the tears after the mention of her blonde teammate. Sasuke held a placid look on his face, but his eyes showed a mix of fury and sadness. The third had seen this look on him before when he had to ask him about the death of his clan. He had hoped to never see the look on the air ever again. "Thank you Kakashi," he finally said. Turning to the two genins he continued, "You two may leave now. We will make arrangements for a funeral soon." Sasuke nodded and pulled the now crying Sakura out of the room. As they left, the Hokage thought, "I'm afraid that those two may be some of the very few that will come to his funeral." Turning his attention back to Kakashi, he asked, "What happened?" Kakashi took a deep breath and began. "A battle started on top of the bridge our client was constructing at the time. Sasuke squared off the masked boy from earlier, now known as Haku. At first the battle between the two appeared to be even. Thanks to the training that Sasuke had gone through, he was able to keep up with the missing nin. That was until the masked boy started performing one-handed hand seals, a feat that even Kakashi had never witnessed before. Suddenly the battle turned against the Leaf Shinobi as needles made of ice began to fly at Sasuke. For a brief moment it appeared that Haku had the upper hand, but because of his recent chakra training, Sasuke was able to match Haku's speed and able to dodge the needles. Now the situation was reversed as Sasuke soon gained the upper hand. Sasuke kicked the Haku back, Kakashi told. There was an exchange between Zabuza and Haku activated his blood limit. The Hokage listened intrigued as the Jounin told the story of the demise of his favorite loudmouth. Haku was able to create a prison of ice mirrors and trapped Sasuke. The fight continued for several minutes and it appeared that Sasuke was about to lose. Then Naruto showed up as only he could. Kakashi paused, a sad smile forming under his mask. After his entrance, Naruto entered Mirror Prison and the two of them became trapped. "During this time I was in a battle with Zabuza and was unable to assist them. Zabuza then thickened the mist and I lost track of them." "Then what happened?" the Hokage urged. "This comes from Sasuke," Kakashi continued. "The two of them were trapped and were losing badly." Naruto, after creating several waves of Kage Bushin, was beginning to tire. And at this point Sasuke was able to activate the Sharingan, but that did not help. He was not fast enough to be able to dodge the Senbon needles Haku was hurling at them. Another brief pause, Haku then targeted Naruto alone and drew Sasuke towards Naruto, hitting him with the needles in pressure point places making him appear to have died. And you don't know what happened after that, the Hokage guessed. No, I know, Kakashi said. Then continue. I was still fighting Zabuza when I felt a sudden surge of chakra. Naruto knelt down as Sasuke's eyes closed and his breathing stopped. Sasuke? He asked. When he got no response, Naruto felt unrestrained agesh, grief and rage. Seeing his friend lying there lifeless caused an unimaginable level of chakra to erupt from his body. Further down on the bridge, Kakashi paused in his fight against Zabuza. Oh no. He thought, the fourth seal, it's breaking. After an intense few seconds, Kakashi thought again, no, not yet, but it's close, and unless I end this soon it will break. Reaching into his vest, Kakashi pulled out his dog summoning scroll and announced, I'm sorry I have to end this so soon, Zabuza. But I can't let this fight continue. Gathering the blood from the wounds Zabuza had given him, Kakashi performed the hand seals required to summon his nin dogs. After he performed the seals and slammed his hand onto the ground, he noticed that the chakra Naruto was producing suddenly disappeared. What happened? Kakashi thought, one moment he seems to be using the Kyuubi and then the chakra is suddenly gone. No matter, I have to end this now. Just as his dogs found and capture the missing nin, Kakashi then begins the seals for his most powerful jutsu, Lighting Egg. He begins to dash to the immobilized Zabuza when the screech of the female member of his team stops him. Naruto. A few moments earlier, back at the fight between Naruto and Haku, Naruto is about to finish off Haku when the mask breaks. Naruto is brought out of his rage when he sees the familiar face of the girl-like boy he met in the forest. Why did you stop? Haku asked, you had the advantage, you should have killed me. But why? Naruto demands, gesturing to Sasuke. To protect my precious person, Haku answers. Naruto is about to respond when he catches a glint rushing towards them. Acting on pure instinct, he pushes Haku out of the way and is impaled on an arrow that was shot from further down the bridge. Standing in front of Tanzuna, Sakura notices that the fog has become a little less thick and begins to search for her teammates. While searching, she catches a glint of an object traveling and follows its path until she sees Naruto push the boy that he and Sasuke were fighting and take a hit from an arrow. Naruto. Haku cannot believe his eyes, the boy he was fighting pushed him out of the way, took an arrow for him. The boy drops to the ground, the arrow pierced the middle of his back. A part of him knew that it was a fatal wound, but that did not register as the boy began to stand, the stumbled to the edge of the bridge and fell off. I turned just as Naruto fell and saw Haku turn to the source of the arrow, Kakashi explained. Zabuza and I both followed Haku's gaze to a large group of men holding various weapons. After an exchange of words, the men attacked Haku and he fought back. Zabuza broke free and rushed to Haku, and I pursued. By the time I got there, he joined the battle, and soon the men were all killed or driven off when the village citizens showed up. After that, Sasuke revived and then Haku and Zabuza left. I did not feel the need to pursue them any longer. They were only our enemy because Gato paid them. The Hokage nodded in understanding. After the battle, the entire village helped us search for Naruto's body. We searched for 4 days, but we found no trace. Thank you, Kakashi, the Hokage said. You may leave now, tell your team that the funeral will be in 1 week's time. Yes, Hokage-sama. A week later, those that were to attend Naruto's funeral gathered. A total of 6 people, including the remaining members of Team 7, the Hokage, Iruka-sensei, and surprisingly Hyuga Hinata, showed to pay their respects to the Kyuubi container. While the lack people confused the genins, the 3 adults were disgusted that so few people showed. Shaking his head, the Hokage stepped forward. I guess this is all that are going to show up. He paused to collect himself and began again. We are here to pay our last respects to a shinobi of Konoha. As all of us know, Naruto had one dream, to become the Hokage. He paused again, noticing the tears from the genins and sorrow of the 2 other men. I believe he died living up to that dream. He sacrificed himself for others, that is the true mark of someone great, some that would be worthy of the title. The Hokage stepped up to the memorial picture and placed a white rose next to it. The next that followed was Iruka-sensei, the one that best knew the boy. He placed his white rose alongside the Hokage's and spoke, I hope you find the peace and friendship in the next life that you could not find in this one. He stepped back to let the next come forward. Sakura was next, she placed the 3rd white rose next to the picture. I'm sorry I didn't treat you better, Naruto. If I knew this was going to happen, I would have gotten to know you better, maybe even let you have taken me out on a date. I hope you can forgive me for any pain I caused you. She backed away with a fresh set of tears. Kakashi was next and placed his flower, all he said was, I'm sorry, and left. Sasuke came next, though he did not have a flower, he did have a set of custom-made shuriken. Thanks for trying to be my friend after my family died. And I'm sorry. The last to come up was Hinata. Unlike the rest, she carried a red rose and placed it on next to the others. Through her sob, she said, I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, I wish I could have told you how much you meant to me. I promised to never give up just like you. After everyone else left the Hokage approached Kakashi, "I will have to place your team on the reserve list until another can fill Naruto's spot." Kakashi nodded, "Just don't let it be too soon, they need time." The Hokage nodded. "By the way, where's your grandson?" "He's still not feeling well after hearing the news," the Hokage answered. "The whole village should have been here mourning, not celebrating." The Hokage frowned once again. Kakashi nodded in agreement and the two left. Several days travel away from Konoha just outside of Wave Country's border, a man wearing a black cape, with blonde hair and his eyes are closed, moves through a small forest near the ocean. The way he moves makes it seem like he is not even touching the ground. He enters a small cave on a mountainside. When he enters he comes across a boy lying on straw, covered with blacks with small pieces of parchment hovering around him. The boy lying on straw has blonde hair and whisker-like marks on his cheeks. The man with closed eyes comes to a sudden stop and speaks, "You are an interesting boy." The boy stirs for a moment and his eyes begin to open. Where am I?" The boy's voice is hoarse from his long rest. "You are far from your home," the black-caped man answers. "Who are you?" the boy asks. "You may call me Darkness. I am Uzumaki Naruto." He barely gets out before falling back into unconsciousness. Darkness moves closer and opens his cape. The pieces of parchment fly into it and he shuts it again. "Sleep well, Uzumaki Naruto, you have a long journey coming soon." The next day Naruto wakes fully healed though still tired. Looking around the cave his eyes come across a man standing to his side wearing a black cape. Naruto feels he knows this man and thinks for a moment, "Darkness, right?" "Yes, Uzumaki Naruto," Darkness answers. "The Yama Kyuubi gives you fast healing." Naruto freezes, "How do you know about Kyuubi?" He manages to squeeze out. "I could sense it when I found you," Darkness responds. Naruto tries to stand, but Darkness interrupts him, "You are still weak, should not try to stand yet." Naruto looks at Darkness for a moment and notices that his eyes are closed. "Hey, how did you know I was trying to stand if your eyes are closed?" Darkness does not respond, making Naruto angry. "Hey, answer me." Still nothing. "Open your eyes and look at me when I'm talking to you." "As you wish." Darkness slowly opens his eyes. Naruto becomes shocked when he sees nothing but blackness as Darkness opens his eyes. It takes several minutes for Naruto to find his voice again. "Who, what are you?" "An observer and to some a teacher," Darkness replies. Not much had changed about Konoha since that fateful mission when Gen and Team 7 lost their first third teammate. The only things that changed were that people grew older and the occasional personality change from a few select group of people that were close to Kyuubi's prison. The ones that changed the most were his teammates and only other genin that came to his funeral. After the funeral Sasuke threw himself into his training. After that day when he said goodbye to his teammate he vowed he would never lose another. During the team's time on the reserve list he would spend all his time training his body and developing his Sharingan. Within 5 months after he first activated it, he had developed his eyes to same level of Kakashi. Many praised him for his accomplishments, but he ignored them. He pretty much cut himself off from everyone except his teammate Sakura and teacher Kakashi. And though he did not become a Chunin until a year after many of the rest of the 9 that graduated with him, his skills had already become the talk of the entire village. Because Team 7 was on the reserve list they were still able to go missions and it was there he truly proved his worth. Every mission he went on was a success and every mission would come back with no casualties. After a new third member of Team 7 was finally selected from the next year's graduating class, they were permitted to enter the Chunin exam. They easily passed the requirements to be promoted and only after 6 months of being a Chunin Sasuke became an Anbu. And then 6 months after that he became an Anbu captain. But perhaps the greatest change to his personality was his humility. Before the fateful mission he had been somewhat arrogant to those around him and if asked how he was so strong he would give them a look that said because I am. Now whenever he was asked he would simply answer, "I'm just fulfilling a promise." Sasuke's teammate Sakura had also changed greatly. Ever since she became a genin Sakura had doubt about her abilities. She had perfect control, but that was about it. Ever since the time Naruto was killed she decided to do what he did, take the skill she was worst at and make it her strength. Because she lacked stamina she trained tirelessly with the self-proclaimed eternal rival of Hada Kakashi, Guy Sensei, as he liked to be called. With Guy's help, Sakura was able to increase her stamina dramatically. She still kept her perfect control and was able to incorporate it into her new stamina. With this she became as much known for her raw physical power as well as her brains. It was said that if Sakura and the Green Beast, Guy's protege Rock Lee, were to ever fight, neither would win. While Lee had the speed, Sakura had the power. Fortunately this theory was never tested. Using her strength Sakura was able to pass the Chunin exam at the same time as her teammate Sasuke. Though she did not immediately go higher in rank about a year after she became a Jounin, one of the youngest in Konoha history. She has yet to take a genin team, saying she is not yet ready for that yet. Her personal life also took a change after Naruto died. She no longer solely went after Sasuke, though she still has feelings for him, she has opened up to many of those around her. Rock Lee especially, from the first time she met him she thought he was somewhat like Naruto. The one who changed the most was Hinata. She took her promise to the loudmouth to heart and never gave up. The first change came in her fighting, she stopped being so afraid of her opponents that she was finally able to show that she was a very capable fighter. In first Chunin exam she ended up facing her elder cousin Neji in the final matches. And though she lost she showed exceptional skill and intelligence in the fight, earning the respect of her father and sister, who were watching in the stands and the respect of her cousin as well. Because of the skill she showed Hinata was promoted to Chunin. From there she found her real calling as a medic. She had always been good at making healing creams and with her Byakugan, she became quite skilled at medical jutsus. And later she surprised everyone by learning how to combine medical taijutsu with gentle fist. Now it's said that if she were to fight her cousin again the fight would be very different. The biggest change was her personality. Before she was timid and shy to a fault, now however she was friendly and personable, making her one of the most popular medics at the hospital. The three that changed the least were the adults that attended the funeral. The Hokage was still the kind yet strong leader with a bit of perverted side, which is why he constantly loses to his grandson Sexy no Jutsu. Kakashi was still the lazy, though less late, jounin as before. And Iruka was still a Chunin instructor at the academy, though now he takes extra time to help those who are considered dead last. Currently there is a meeting taking place at Ichiruka ramen stand. Ever since the passing the three former genin would come here every so often and have some ramen in honor of their fallen friend. So Hinata, Sakura began, how's the hospital? Busy, Hinata replies, Sasuke's squad had some rather heavy injuries from their mission a couple of days ago. She looks over to Sasuke and gently throws a bottle to him. Here this is a bit better than the stuff they gave you at the hospital. Thanks, Sasuke says then continues to eat his ramen. How have you been Sakura? Bored lately, she sighs, not much to do, haven't been any descent missions lately. Although training with Lee-san is always entertaining. The others smile knowing what she means after having met the thick-browed teenager. Conversation continues to be light until each has eaten their fill and goes their separate ways. All enjoying their friendship that should not have come in the way it did. A couple of days later a stranger wearing a deep red and black outfit comes to the main gates of Konoha. This figure is a little over 165 centimeters, 5.5 feet, in height. He wears a mask that covers the lower half of his face and a hood to hide the rest. If one were to look into his eyes they would see a set of deep blue eyes with slightly vertical slits. Though he moves at a casual pace, it is easy for the trained eye to know he is never off guard. When he finally arrives the gates the guards move to stop him. Not wanting to cause trouble the stranger stops and lets the guards come to him. What is your business here? The head guard asks. Just visiting some old friends, the person responds in a male voice. Let me see some ID the guard says. Sorry I don't have any, the man says. I haven't been here for a few years and my ID expired. Then I'm afraid you will have to see the administration office to get it renewed, the guard responds. And you will have to escort it all the way. I understand, the man says. If it is not much trouble might I be able to see the Hokage as well. The request puts the guard on edge for a moment, that will be up to him. Hey Shikamaru, Choji get your lazy butts over here. Two people with Chunin vests come closer. The stranger glances at them for a moment then turns back to the head guard. What do you want? Asks the lazy Chunin. I need you and the meat tank to escort this guy to the administration office. Troublesome, Shikamaru said, fine let's go. After a few minutes walking Choji speaks to Shikamaru. Hey Shikamaru, does this guy seem familiar to you? Maybe, Shikamaru glances back at the stranger. Earlier he noticed he had deep blue eyes and that seemed to cause recognition, but he just could not remember from where. We could have seen him as kids. He does appear to be about our age. Choji now even more curious turns back and asks, hey have we met before? Yes, the stranger answers, when we were younger. I was alone a lot so I don't think you'd remember me. Shikamaru now intrigued turns back and asks, what's your name? My name really doesn't matter, the stranger responds. He begins to move faster and moves past them, causing the two to speed up to catch him. The rest of the way is nothing but silence, the two Chunins wondering whom this person was. Once they arrived at the administration office the stranger spoke again. Do you think the Hokage will see me? That would be up to him, Choji answered. We'll take you to him first, Shikamaru added. He can get your ID reinstated if he is willing to see you, it will be less troublesome for us. The stranger nodded and the three proceeded into the building. After a few minutes of walking they came upon the office of the Hokage and were stopped by two Jounin guards. What is your purpose here? The sickly looking one asks. Hey this guy wants to see the Hokage and get his ID reinstated, Shikamaru answers. The other Jounin gives the stranger a glance and asks, what's his name? He didn't give it, Genma, Choji responds. Then he can't see the Hokage, Genma replies. Inside his office, the Hokage is taking a quick break to smoke his pipe. There has not been any real activity lately, so his workload is light. He decided to take a break since there was no rush and went out to his balcony to gaze at Hokage Monument. His gaze rests on the last one for a minute and he sighs, "It's been a little over 2 years since your legacy has died forth. I'm sorry I didn't protect him better." After his apology, he makes his way back inside. The third is about to get back to work when he senses something peculiar outside his door. He waits a few moments and hears some people talking. Relenting to his curiosity, the Hokage goes to open the door. Outside in the hallway, the two Chunins and stranger are about to leave when the door opens and the Hokage comes out. "What is going on out here?" "We are sorry for the commotion, Hokage-sama," Genma replies. "But this stranger wanted to see you, he did not give his name, so we sent him away." The Hokage looks at the person in the deep red and black outfit. For some reason he seems to recognize the person. "Send him in," he finally replies, "I will see what he has to say." "Yes, Hokage-sama," Genma replies. He and Hayate stand aside and the stranger passes through. Once the door closes, the Hokage faces the stranger and asks, "So who are you and why did you want to see me?" The stranger begins to remove his mask and hood. The first things the third noticed were the deep blue eyes the stranger had. His eyes widened a little at the familiarity of the eyes, but practically jumped out of his head when the stranger revealed blonde hair on his head and 3 whisker marks on each cheek. "Well, I wanted to see if you would let me back into the village, and I can guess you already know who I am, old man." "Nah, Naruto?" the Hokage asked, "is that you?" "Yeah, old man. It's me," Naruto responds. "Did you miss me?" Joy was the first thing that came to the third's mind when the teenager in front of him answered the affirmative. One of his greatest regrets, not being able to protect the legacy of the fourth, had just come back into his life. It was almost too good to be true, and then the more cautious side of his mind told him that this could be a trick by one of his enemies. Calming down, he asked, "How do I know it's really you?" Naruto sighed, "Do you really want me to do the technique I taught your grandson?" The Hokage at first was surprised, then paled, and finally smiled at the thought of Naruto's sexy no jutsu. "No, I don't think that will be necessary." He took a long look at the teenager before him and saw many of the changes. He wore a dark red pants with black trim, a tight shirt that was the reverse of his pants. A black cape that had the hoodie removed earlier. His gaze traveled down to his hands and he saw Naruto now wore fingerless gloves. When he looked at the fingers, he saw they were now more claw-like. Stunned for a moment, he looked back to his face and noticed for the first time that Naruto's eyes had slightly elongated pupils, making them look somewhat fox-like. Surprise was on the old man's face when he asked, "What happened to you?" Naruto sighed and sat in a nearby chair. "A lot, and I'll tell you about it, but first could you call my old friends here? I think it will be easier if I tell everyone at once." Of course, the Hokage called for the two outside his door. When they answered, he said, "Find Kakashi, Sasuke, Sakura, Iruka and Hinata and bring them here immediately." The two guards bowed and went left. "Hinata?" Naruto thought, "That shy girl from the academy. I guess she cared about me more than I thought. It should only take a few minutes." A few minutes later, 5 people that had come to know each other rather well met up once again outside the Hokage's office. "So he called you here as well," Kakashi said, still reading his Icha Paradise book. "Do you think someone vandalized Naruto's grave again?" Hinata asked in a disgusted voice. "Possibly," Sasuke answers with just as much distaste. "I really wish they would give it a rest and leave him in peace." The others nodded in agreement as they entered the office. When they went inside, they were not expecting the Hokage's face to have a smile. Their previous theory was obviously not correct. "Good, you made good time. There is someone here who wishes to say hello." The person that went previously unnoticed before stood up from the chair. When he did, 5 gasps were heard at once. "Hey guys, it's good to see you again." The 5 were too stunned to make any kind of motion. The Hokage, seeing this, began to answer the questions that were going through everyone's minds. "Yes, this is Naruto. I questioned him myself. He just arrived a few minutes ago. And said he would say what happened to him once you arrived." The Hokage's answers seemed to bring everyone around and they looked at Naruto in anticipation. "First I have to ask, do they," gesturing to Sasuke, Sakura and Hinata, "know about what happened when I was a baby?" "Yes," Kakashi answered, "we told them after your funeral." "Funeral?" Naruto asks. He looks at their faces to see the sadness and decides to drop it. "Good, because first I should tell you it's gone. That's the reason for the claws and eyes." For the first time, the 5 saw Naruto's hands and eyes and understanding passed through their minds. "First let me explain how I survived." He paused for a minute, then continued, "After I fell off the bridge, I was rescued by a being named Darkness. I say being because the one that rescued me was not human nor demon, but something else. Even though now I don't know what he is, just that he has been alive for a very long time." "How long?" the Hokage interrupts. The name Darkness triggers something in his memory. "Longer than the shinobi countries have been in existence," Naruto answered. Anyway, he said that even with his help the only reason I survived the fall, wounds and drowning, was because of Kyuubi. After I was healed I tried to return, but darkness would not let me. He took west by some kind of teleportation to some ruins of an ancient civilization. There he trained for 2 years. It was only because of the Kyuubi's power that I was able to complete the training in 2 years. After my training was complete, darkness freed the Kyuubi. Several gasps were heard interrupting Naruto. He looked at their horrified faces and said, "Relax." Darkness sent it back to the demon world and made sure it could never come back. "Then what about your changes?" Kakashi asked. "Well, these happened because of the power that I did absorb," Naruto answered. "And they became permanent even after the Kyuubi left. I still retain some of its power, like rapid healing." "So what did this darkness teach you?" Sasuke asked. "Well, you probably wouldn't know even if I told you," Naruto said. "It was a lost art. But I will tell you, it's quite powerful." Silence hung in the air for several minutes until the Hokage spoke up. "You may just get an opportunity to show us, Naruto." Everyone turned to look at him. "When I reinstate your shinobi status you will still be a genin, but I have a feeling that your skills are well beyond that level. So I must see your skills in order to reassess your level." Naruto gave his fox-like grin that everyone in the room had missed. "Sure, old man, when will it take place?" "It will take me about a week's time before I can put everything together," the Hokage answered, "but I will go ahead and reinstate you." "It won't take long after that for word to spread about Naruto," Sasuke spoke up. "That can't be helped," Kakashi said. "But surely there's something you can do," Iruka began but was interrupted. "It's alright, Iruka-sensei," Naruto cuts him off. "The village will learn that I am not Kyuubi eventually. So there's no need for me to hide." The others were surprised at Naruto's calm answer. "Well then, why don't you get yourself reacquainted with the village while I get back to work," the Hokage suggested. "And the rest of you have the next few days off." Naruto smiled once again and said, "Ichiruka Ramen, here I come." The others laughed, glad to see their friend is back had not changed too much. The next day word had already spread about the return of the Kyuubi vessel. While a very few were glad, most loathed idea about Naruto's return. It was a good thing no one knew where he was staying at, otherwise they may have done something that everyone would regret. When they could not find Naruto, several villagers approached the Hokage demanding to know where Naruto was. The Hokage silenced them by saying that the law was still in effect and anyone caught even mentioning the Naruto being the Kyuubi would be punished severely. Naruto was currently at Team 7's old meeting spot reminiscing about old times. He had to laugh at himself for the way he acted back then. He brought his head up and said, "You know, back then I really was a dead last and an idiot. You two were right about me." "Well, not everything," Sakura said coming up behind. "We're glad you're back, Naruto. It took a shorter amount of time for word to spread than I thought," Sasuke greeted. Naruto just shrugged. "So what did you want to talk about?" "Okage-sama says your evaluation will be in 5 days' time," Sasuke said. That will give a chance to train a little," Naruto smiled. "Would you like some help?" Sakura asked. "Nope," Naruto smiles even more, "don't want to give anyone any heads up until the day." He turned to look and saw some disappointment on their faces. "Hey, don't worry about it, all I want to do is retain my title as the most surprising ninja in Konoha," he joked. The others chuckled in response. "Fine, we'll leave you be for now, but just remember I'm going to be one of you opponents," Sasuke says. "I want to personally see just how strong you've gotten." "Don't worry, I've gotten stronger than even you can handle," Naruto boasts. Sakura smiles at the renewed rivalry. "Well, we'll leave you alone then. But don't be surprised if Hinata pays you a visit soon." Okay, Sakura-chan," Naruto says confused. His two former teammates smile at his clueless expression and leave. Naruto continued to train the rest of the day. He currently has several practice logs set up around him. He took a shoulder-width stance. Then slowly brought his right leg up, then while leaning forward and pulling the raised leg back. After a brief pause he swung his leg and disappeared from sight. A second later he reappeared in his original stance, then relaxed. Another few more seconds passed and the practice log suddenly crumbled. If anyone was watching they would have wondered just what he had done. He smiled at the results and decided to take a break. Taking a rest under a tree and noticed that someone was about to enter the area. Turning in that direction he saw, true to Sakura's prediction, Hinata coming to visit him. When she saw Naruto sitting under a tree, Hinata went over to sit next to him. After a brief period of silence Hinata began, "Naruto-kun, there is something I want to tell you." "Yes, Hinata was, is it?" Naruto asked. He had been curious about her since he found out she had also attended his funeral 2 years ago. "When we were at the academy, no, even before then, he used to watch you and I really admired you. And when I thought you were dead I regretted never telling you before." Naruto gave her a soft smile. "Thank you for caring, Hinata, not many people did." Hinata blushed a little bit, starting to feel like her younger self again. I don't want to miss," she began to trail off at the end. Fortunately Naruto had become more observant than when he was younger and caught on to what she was trying to say. "Hey Hinata-chan, would you like to go and get something to eat?" Naruto said. Hinata was surprised but also relieved and glad at Naruto's offer and simply nodded in compliance. Good, then you can tell me what you've been up to since I've been away. Hinata nodded again and the two left to enjoy dinner together. After the first day back, Naruto spent most of his time training in secret. No one was able to see what the blonde was doing because no matter who would try and spy on him, he would be seen simply sitting under a tree. Many suspected that he was able to sense anyone that approached. This alone gave rise to the ever-growing stories of the dead Genin Kyuubi vessel returning to life in the village. The day before the evaluation of Naruto's skills, the rumors had come to a fever pitch. Many were speaking about their anticipation, some for and some against. Those that knew about Kyuubi were scared that of the idea of it coming out because they were not told it was gone. Those that were told, a select number of Anbu and Jounin, were curious as to see how much stronger the teenager had become without the demon fox. Those around Naruto's age and thus did not know about Kyuubi in the first place wanted to see just what had changed about him, especially Shikamaru and Choji. Once they learned it was Naruto, they escorted to the Hokage. Many of those that knew Naruto were still somewhat guilty that they decided to train or were too lazy to attend his funeral, more so after they found out so few people actually attended. But the ones that were in the most anticipation were Kakashi, Iruka, Hinata, Sasuke, Sakura and the Hokage. The Hokage the most, he was still bothered by the name of Naruto's teacher while he was away. Naruto had decided to take the day off before the evaluation to rest. Although he was confident in his skill, the only person he knew he would be facing was Sasuke. He did not know what it would entice nor would he know for how long. So rather than taking chances, he decided to skip his training and not run the risk of being too tired tomorrow. Naruto had thought that he would spend time with his friends on the last day. They were rather eager to join him because, although he would not divulge any of his style, it was kind of fun too for them to try to get some information, kind of like a running joke for them. So you think your training actually helped you, dope, Sasuke said with a smirk. Better believe it, bastard, Naruto returned the smirk. The two had reverted to the old nicknames they had when they were still on the same team. Only this time they were not meant as insults, just a kind of brotherly teasing. And no, I'm not going to tell you anything about it. Ah, come on Naruto, Sakura complained, just a hint. Please Naruto-kun, Hinata joined in, we are all curious about what you've been doing. Naruto sighed, if it had been anyone else, or even just one of them, Naruto would have just denied the request. Because it was Sakura and Hinata he could not refuse. His old feelings for Sakura and his growing affection for Hinata made it impossible for him to resist their combined probing. Fine, but only if you give me a little heads up on the evaluation. Deal, Sasuke said, although I can only tell you about my part. Fine, Naruto agreed, but you first. My part would involve a showing of combat skills, Sasuke told, and there will be at least 2 other opponents besides me, and I won't tell you who they are. Don't want to give you too much warning. Alright, Naruto said, I'll tell you this, I use my feet and none of my skills can be copied. So you won't be able to counter my style, Sasuke. This had everyone intrigued. His statement about using his feet implied that he was now based in Taijutsu, whereas before he showed an affinity to high-level ninjutsu, his ability to use Kage Bushin as a genin was the prime example. And the statement of his skills not being able to be copied intrigued them as well. So far the only jutsus that the Sharingan could not copy were bloodline limits. But what really got Sasuke's attention was Naruto's claim that he could not counter it. Sasuke had developed a name for himself by using the Sharingan to copy and counter another's jutsus. Unlike Kakashi however, he would not copy and use the same technique, he would use a jutsu that would completely neutralize the other, thus earning him the name the Counter Ninja. Don't be so sure of that dope, Sasuke said, I didn't get my name for nothing. We'll see bastard, Naruto responded, then muttered, and I didn't get mine for nothing either. What was that last part Naruto-kun? Hinata asked being the only one close enough to hear the mutter. What? Oh nothing Hinata-chan, Naruto answered, I just said it's getting late and I should get some rest. Well see you tomorrow then, Sakura said for the group. After Naruto left Sakura asked, do you think what Naruto said was true? Well the old Naruto was boastful and had a huge tendency to exaggerate, Sasuke answered. But the Naruto we've gotten to know over the last couple of days doesn't seem to exaggerate. The fact that no one has been able to sneak up on him is a clear indication of his improvement. So you're saying you believe him Sasuke-kun? Sakura asked. What I'm saying is that I and his other opponents should be on our toes when we fight him, Sasuke said. So are his other opponents? Hinata asked. The ones I know for sure will be Rock Lee and Kurenai, Sasuke said. So they're going to test all aspects, Taijutsu, Ninjutsu and Genjutsu, then, Sakura concluded. But Lee-san never mentioned anything about taking place in the evaluation. The others were decided yesterday, Sasuke said. I was the only one to volunteer. Although Kakashi did say that if I had not done so he would have. You said that there would be at least 2 others, Hinata said, does that mean that others may come in? That is actually up to the Hokage, Sasuke said. I was in on the meeting about the combat test, and the Hokage said that it may take more than just the three of us to get a real idea about how strong Naruto has become. After a pause he added, I think he knows more than he is letting on, or at least suspects more. Naruto sat on his bed in his new apartment. He had been going over what he had found out from Sasuke just a couple of hours ago. From what Sasuke told me, he will be in the combat part, he thought. That would mean that they will probably be testing different skills. And that would mean they would test Jinjutsu, Ninjutsu and Taijutsu. None of them should be a problem, especially Taijutsu and Jinjutsu. I doubt there will be anyone with illusions stronger than the ones darkness was able to make. Still, I should not underestimate any of them. Naruto got up from his bed and looked out his window and gazed at the forest outside. His apartment was on the side of a building that faced away from the Hokage monument, and although he missed seeing their faces, he was just as glad he could see the forest. He always liked being in the forests of Konoha when he was a child. Still, that's not what worries me, Naruto continued thinking, they will also probably test my knowledge as well. And though darkness forced me to use my head more, I don't really know much about information. I guess I should have gone to the library and studied as well as trained. Oh well, too late now, might as well get some sleep. With that thought, Naruto returned to his bed to get some sleep, still eager about the next day. The next day Naruto made his way to the Homage's office. He had been told to go there first for the first series of tests. He assumed that they would test his knowledge first. And when he entered the room and when he saw a group of Jounin instructors as well as the Hokage and Iruka, he figured he assumed correctly. The Hokage gestured for Naruto to take the seat in front of the Jounins and sat down. As soon as he sat, manacles immediately slapped onto his wrists, ankles and even around his throat. Hey. What's going on? Naruto demanded. Shut up. A heavily scarred Jounin ordered, you really think the Hokage and the rest of us were fooled by you, demon? What are you? Naruto was silenced by a punch to the face by the scared Jounin. Now you will tell us what really happened. The scared one demanded. Naruto glanced around the room and noticed the placid looks of their faces. As he came to Iruka and the Hokage, he saw neutral looks on their faces, but their eyes held a covered, but still noticeable to him, look of sympathy and compassion. They're testing my resistance to interrogation, he thought. Well then, he then took a deep breath and spoke out loud, you won't get anything from me. The calmness of his voice shocked many of the instructors in the room. But the one in front of him with the scars just smiled. Then I guess it's the fun way, he said. Several in the room internally cringed, for they knew what was about to happen. The scared interrogator began a series of hand seals, and soon after he was finished, Naruto could feel an assault on his mind. Naruto knew he was under an illusion that was made to break him will within moments of its beginning. Inwardly Naruto was struggling to maintain his focus. Damn, this guy could make darkness sweat. If that's even possible, that is. Outwardly Naruto kept his neutral face, and the only indication that he was exerting anything was the sweat forming on his head. This alone impressed many in the room, including the interrogator. It's been 10 minutes and he's only sweating, the scarred one thought. Either he really is the demon or his mental strength is extraordinary. The Hokage had similar thoughts to the interrogator, and after 15 minutes he had seen enough. That's enough, Ibiki. The Jounin turned to the Hokage, if he can last this long then he has proven enough for me. The others agreed, they knew that there were few in this room that could last as long as Naruto did. The manacles released and Naruto rubbed his wrists and neck. So what's next? He asked. A test of knowledge, Naruto, Iruka answered. As he brought out a test sheet and handed it to him. You'll have 2 hours to complete the test. Naruto looked down at the test and glanced around the room, damn, can't even cheat to get the answers. I'm the only one here taking the test and none of the instructors have anything or are saying anything. Naruto then began to answer the questions as best he could. After the 2 hours were up his test was collected. The instructors looked over his test and some began to snicker at some of his answers. Naruto even heard the Hokage say, his knowledge is only a little bit higher than when he was at the academy. This got Naruto angry for a minute and muttered, it's not like I could study out in the middle of nowhere. The Hokage caught this and smirked at the comment. Now we'll test you planning ability, the Hokage announced. He looked around the room, where is he? The others looked around and shrugged, indicating they didn't know. Someone go get Shikamaru. The Hokage ordered. 5 minutes later the Chunin in question arrived. Why do I have to do this? Because you were ordered to. The one that went to retrieve him said. Fine, let's get this over with, Shikamaru said. He walked over to Naruto and asked, do you know how to shogi? Actually, yes, Naruto said. That was one of the games Darkness had him play to learn strategy. Shikamaru placed a shogi board on the desk and the two began to play. For the first few moves Shikamaru had a bored look on his face. But after about the 6th move he looked at the board then at Naruto. He then became interested, you're no too bad. That was when the game became more active. Each player moving and taking pieces quickly, each having to readjust their moves to counter the other. Finally after about 10 minutes Naruto stopped, damn I can't win, you'll get me in 7 moves. Shikamaru smiled, actually 6, but you're pretty good, I'd like to play you again. Sure, why not, Naruto agreed, smiling as well. Well, that concludes this part of the exam, the Hokage said. He was impressed at Naruto's skill in strategy and tactics. Even he would have trouble against Shikamaru. We will now proceed to the stadium for the test in combat skills. Naruto smiled in anticipation, good cause, this is what I've been waiting for. Once everyone had gathered at the stadium, Naruto was surprised to see the amount of people there. Although this was not open to the civilians, it was open to any shinobi that could attend. And by the looks of things, it appeared that nearly half the shinobi of all ranks in the village showed to watch the matches. Guess they're expecting a show, and they're about to get one. The referee for the matches turned out to be Hinata's cousin Neji. Naruto had met him the third night after Naruto walked her home. Neji approached Naruto and said, "Now we'll see if you're worthy of Hinata-sama." Naruto just gave him a confident grin in response. The first match will be between Yuhi Kurenai and Uzumaki Naruto. As Neji announced this, a red-eyed mid-20-year-old woman entered the stadium. In the stand, Sakura was watching with her Hinata, Sasuke and Rock Lee. This will be a good indication of how well Naruto does against illusions in combat. He should do well, Sasuke said. I heard some of the jounin saying he lasted 15 minutes against Ibuki. Yosh. I'm looking forward to facing him. Rock Lee said, pumping his fist. Back at the stadium, Naruto went into a defensive stance. He was not aware of the kind of jutsus Kurinia was capable of, so he decided to play it safe for now. The two fighters gazed at each other until Kurenai started to do a fast series of hand seals. Naruto prepared for anything, he then noticed an assault on his mind, Genjutsu. Next thing Naruto knew, he was somehow encased in huge boulder with Kurenai sticking out above him. Naruto quickly analyzed the illusion. I can feel the stone and see it, but I can't hear her moving against it, nor can I smell the rock. That means it assaults the sense of touch and sight. Can't do much about the sense of touch, but I can at least take care of the sight. Naruto closed his eyes and take away one sense being assaulted. Now that's out of the way, it'll be easier to break the illusion. Naruto then began to perform what darkness had taught him in order to break illusions. Kurinia watched as Naruto closed his eyes, so he knows that it assaults his eyes, but does he know about touch too? And will he be able to break the illusion without hand seals? Her question was answered as Naruto's body slowly began to glow green. The next thing anyone knew, the illusion was broken and Naruto was freed. Not bad, Naruto commented, but I've got to end this now. Naruto then disappeared from sight and reappeared behind Kurinia, jumped and kicked her in the head, knocking her out instantly. His speed is impressive, Sasuke commented. Yes, Rock agreed, he will be fun to fight. With that, the thick-browed Chunin jumped down to the just after the medics carried off Kurinia. Naruto gazed at his next opponent. He met him on the fourth day after he arrived when he met up with Sakura. He had heard the stories of the Chunin that could not use Genjutsu or Ninjutsu and relied entirely on Taijutsu. Naruto knew that although he had yet to take the Jounin exam, Rock Lee is probably at Jounin level. If it was any other Chunin besides you, I would feel insulted, Lee. Thank you for the compliment, Naruto-kun, Lee said, getting into his stance. Naruto only responded by dropped into his stance as well. His stance was unfamiliar to Lee, and that disturbed him because he thought he knew nearly all Taijutsu stances. Up in the stands, two people were just as disturbed but for the opposite reason. Guy thought that stance seemed familiar, he remembered reading about a stance that was similar in a book he once read. What Guy could not place was the name of the Taijutsu style or where it came from, but what he did remember was the book said that this was one of the strongest Taijutsu styles there was. The other person that recognized the stance was the Hokage. No, he whispered, he couldn't know it. This has to be some variation, not the actual style. Did you want something, Hokage-sama? One of his attendants asked. What? Oh no, I'm fine, the Hokage responded, then thought, if it is that style then Naruto has progressed farther than I first thought. Back in the center of the stadium, Neji announced the match, Rock Lee vs Uzumaki Naruto. Lee wasted no time in charging in. His speed still amazed everyone in the stadium. But what amazed them more was the fact that Naruto was able to keep up. After a few exchanged blows, where Lee would use combinations of hands and feet, Naruto would almost entirely use his feet to hit back. Lee jumped back and thought, he's just as fast as I am. Across from him, Naruto was thinking, he's fast, too fast, I can barely keep up. Well, Naruto-kun, Lee spoke up, I guess I'll have to go all out. With that, he jumped a safe distance away and began to remove his weights. After tossing them aside and creating two good-sized craters, he began to jump up and down to get used to the change in weight. Naruto stood watching and smiled, then I guess I'll have to do the same, Lee. His statement confused everyone until Naruto take off his clothing, only to reveal a second set underneath. Naruto took his clothes and threw them behind him, making a crater that rivaled the ones Lee made. Are you ready? Around the stadium, those with Byakugan and Sharingans activated their eyes in anticipation of a high-speed match. Next to two of those people, Sakura asked, do you think Lee-san will use Lotus against Naruto? In all reality I doubt it, Sasuke answered. Lotus requires the user to move fast enough to get through the opponent's guard. And if they have a similar amount of weight, then their speed should be too close for it to be useful. The only way Lee could use Lotus were to use Extreme Lotus, and the Hokage specifically told him not to use it. Sakura nodded and turned back to watch the match. With her training under Guy, she would be one of the few people to be able to keep up without a Byakugan or Sharingan. The two fighters charged each other at blinding speeds and met in the center. Those that could follow saw Naruto dive forward and sprung off his hands and kicked Lee in the gut. Lee flew back but was able to recover by performing a backflip and then punched Naruto as he came in close to score another kick. The punch connected and Naruto shot back, but he did a backhand spring and caught Lee under the chin with his foot. Lee quickly recovered and threw his own leg out and caught Naruto in the stomach. The two flew back and landed now both with bruises on various parts of their body. After a brief moment to catch his breath, Lee charged in once again. This time he jumped in the air and called Konoha Senpyu, making his body begin to rotate, causing wind to from around his body. If you want to play it like that, then take this, Naruto said and dove to his hands and called Chainsaw. Naruto's body began to spin like Lee's, only it was faster, creating more force and knocking Lee back. Naruto came out of his technique and did not waste any time for Lee to recover. He called out sword while performing a jump kick, sending Lee into the wall. Activating his Byakugan, Neji said, "Winner Uzumaki Naruto." Several around the stadium were wondering where he had learned such a powerful taijutsu style. Two others were wondering why they could not copy the techniques he used to finish off Lee. So he was telling the truth, Sasuke grinned, "I can't copy them. And from what I saw, he didn't even need hand seals to perform them. Whatever that is, it is very impressive." After Lee was carried off, everyone was eagerly anticipating the final match. Sasuke was considered one of the strongest in the village, and Naruto had just shown he was as well. Sasuke made his way down to the center. When he got there, he said, "Feel free to take a breather. I want you at your best." Naruto smiled, "Thanks, Lee was better than I thought. I didn't think I would need to use any of my techniques until you." Everyone waited about 5 minutes until Naruto said, "Okay, I'm ready." Neji did not even have a chance to announce the start of the match before Sasuke performed his hand seals and called out, "Kaiten. Kyoryuenden." A large dragon made of fire sped towards Naruto. Naruto brought his leg up and called out, "Boomerang." A wave of chakra came off his foot and dispersed the flame dragon. As soon as his foot landed, Naruto thrust both hands out, calling, "Heiken." A fist of wind came out and sped towards Susuke. With his Sharingan activated, Sasuke was fast enough to anticipate the attack and performed Dotendoryu Kehi. Mud came out of his mouth just in time to form a wall and block the attack. Unfortunately, because of that, Sasuke lost track of Naruto, who charged in, jumped and called, "Sword." Luckily, Sasuke was again quick enough to perform Kawarimi no Jutsu. Naruto only hit a log that Sasuke was able to replace his body with. After Naruto destroyed the log, he searched the area for Sasuke. Sensing him in a tree to his right, Naruto pulled his leg back and unleashed Boomerang. The wave of chakra moved toward the tree and cut it in half, but not before Sasuke escaped. These techniques are unbelievable, Sasuke thought. I guess I have no choice but to use it. Just as he landed, Sasuke said, "This has been fun, Naruto, but now I landed with a jutsu Kakashi taught me." Sasuke began the seals and called out, "Kuchius no Jutsu." A large cloud of smoke formed, and when it cleared, there was large pure white dog, larger than a good-sized building with Sasuke standing on it, was revealed. Naruto was taken back by the sight. "What the hell happened?" he asked. "Kakashi taught me how to summon," Sasuke answered. "You've improved a lot, Naruto, but you can't win." "We'll see." Naruto dropped into another stance. This time he was leaning forward slightly, one hand at his waist, the other bent at elbow in front of him. He began to speak in a low voice that sounded like mumbling to even the two closest people to him. As he was speaking, a large amount of chakra began to explode from his body. Up next to the Hokage, one of his attendants asked, "Is he opening the gates?" "No," the Hokage answered, "he is doing something entirely different." His gaze never left the fight. He saw Naruto's muscles begin to flex and expand as the amount of chakra released continued to increase. On top of his summon, Sasuke was watching as Naruto increased in power, wondering if he knew how to open the 8 celestial gates as well. Soon the increase in chakra stopped and Naruto charged the summon. "Get out of the way," he ordered to the dog. The dog complied and jumped into the air. Naruto jumped as the dog did and knew he would miss with his attack, but because he knew he would be at a disadvantage if he pulled out now, so he continued the attack. Shouting, "Rapier." Naruto's body seemed to become surrounded by rotating flames that center at his extended foot. Although he missed the summon with the brunt of the attack, he was able to clip and cause injury. When Sasuke and the summon landed, the dog said, "Sorry, but that guy got my leg, I can't fight anymore." The summon disappeared, leaving Sasuke alone. Naruto landed soon after, breathing heavily. He turned and saw Sasuke about to attack once again, so he prepared to continue also. The two fighters were stopped however when the third appeared in between them saying, "This match is over. To continue would be a danger to both parties. I hereby call it a draw." The crowd was stunned by the display of the two fighters and the sudden end. After a brief period of silence, cheers went up for both participants. During the cheering, both dropped to the ground still conscious but incredibly worn out. "Once you two recover, come to my office and we will discuss what happened." The Hokage did not wait for an answer and disappeared. Soon after he left, medics came and took both teenagers away. A few hours later, a group of several Jounins and Chunins gathered in the Hokage's office. When the last ones, Naruto and Sasuke, arrived, the Hokage spoke. "First, I would like to say congratulations on the evaluation, Naruto. You have proven to have the skills needed to be at Jounin level." "Thank you, Hokage-sama," Naruto responded. He felt that he should be formal because of the nature of the meeting. "Now tell me the name of your fighting style," the Hokage ordered. "Judging by your expression you already know," Naruto replied. "But for clarification, it's called Kurita killing style. Shadow skill." "I thought as much," the Hokage leaned back in his chair. "What's so special about this shadow skill?" a Jounin asked. Naruto was about to answer, but the Hokage beat him to it. Shadow skill was a lost form of fighting from a civilization to the west of the shinobi countries. The Hokage explained. It was used by very few fighters in a city called Kurita. In this city, fighters competed for a title known as a Saver. With their Savers, Kurita had over 2,000 years of being undefeated in battle. The Hokage paused to let the information sink in. During the silence, a Chunin asked, "If they were so strong, what happened to them?" "I'll answer that," Naruto said. "My teacher Darkness told me that a natural disaster destroying Kurita, forcing all its citizens to leave. He also told me that many of the jutsu principles the shinobi use can trace their origin to Kurita and its neighboring kingdoms." "And who is Darkness?" another Jounin asked. "Darkness is a being from another world that has been alive since before the fall of Kurita," the Hokage answered. "He would be the only person that could have taught Naruto shadow skill." "How did you know that?" Naruto asks. "The first Hokage once told me he met a being named Darkness," the Hokage answered. "Darkness told him about his history and the first told me." "Now Naruto, I have a question, have you mastered shadow skill?" "I know all the techniques, but I haven't been able to master all them yet." "Then what name does Darkness call you?" the Hokage asked. "Ever since I performed the last technique he has been calling me Shadow Claw," Naruto answered. The Hokage sat in his office contemplating what just transpired less than an hour ago. Naruto has become the inheritor of shadow skill, he thought. If the legends about its strength are true, then Naruto will become the strongest person in the village within the next few years. He sighed and lit his pipe, and judging by the power he displayed earlier, he may be at Kakashi's level, maybe even higher. But the question is what to do with him now. He stood up and went to his window to gaze at the stone faces. He is now a Jounin, but I doubt he is ready and willing to take on a Genin team yet. One part of the test we did not cover was how well he would do on a team. If his ability to work in a unit has increased like that of his other skills, then he may make a Gukanbu. But if that is the case, who to put him with? I'm sure Sasuke would be willing to take him as part of him team, but that may not be the best for either of them. Naruto needs to reintegrate with others, and just being around people he was already close to would not help very much. He returned to his desk to finish his paperwork. I will send him out on a couple of missions with other Jounin first and go from there. The Hokage went back to work. Just a deep voice from his widow said, "I see the only thing you still do around here is paperwork, sensei?" The Hokage turned to the window and saw a large man with long spiky white hair. "Hello Jiraiya, I haven't seen you in about a year or so. What brings you here?" "Well, first," Jiraiya reaches into his clothes and pulls out a book. "I've just completed my latest book and I came to give a special edition to my two best readers." He hands the book to the Hokage, who is blushing but still takes it anyway. "And second, I have some information about our old friend." The Hokage quietly puts the book into his robes. "And what is he up to?" Jiraiya moves and sits across the Hokage. "According to my sources, he wants you in a grave and plans to put you there himself." "Then we should expect an attack soon?" the Hokage asked. "Not just yet," Jiraiya answers, "but it would be wise to begin preparations." "How long before he comes?" "Not for a couple of months," Jiraiya answered. "You're high on his list of priorities but not at the top." He stood up about to leave when the Hokage's voice stopped him. "Before you leave, I think you should know," the Hokage said, "he's still alive and back in the village." Jiraiya paused, turned and nodded. "I need to give Kakashi his copy. When I get back we'll talk." "You'll find them both at Ichiruka having a celebration," the Hokage said as Jiraiya left. Not far away, Naruto was indeed celebrating his recent promotion to Jounin level. The people there were his friends, Rock Lee, Shikamaru and Konohamaru, and his friends just back from a Genin mission from outside the village. Konohamaru and his friends had heard about Naruto being alive the moment they walked into the village just a half hour ago and came straight here. When they saw him they nearly broke into tears, hoping that their leader was not just some figment of their imagination. After several minutes of several people convincing them he was not just their imagination, they soon joined in the celebration. "So Konohamaru, you still being taught by that closet pervert?" Naruto asked in between mouthfuls of ramen. "Ebisu-sensei is still teaching us," Konohamaru said. "And we're sorry we didn't." "Don't worry about it," Naruto said, knowing what Konohamaru was about to say. "So Naruto," Kakashi said behind his book, "are you going to tell us why you're called Shadow Claw?" Everybody turned to Naruto in anticipation. Ever since the Hokage questioned him about his new title they became very curious. "Well, there's not much a reason behind it really," Naruto began. "Darkness said that the warriors of Karuta would be named for aspects that were unique to them. For me it was the fact that I mastered shadow skill and," he paused and held up his hand showing his claws, "my claws." There was silence for a moment. The Konohamaru shouted, "That's it. Hey, Kakashi-sensei got his name because he only copies others' techniques with his Sharingan." Naruto countered. "Speaking of which," Sasuke jumps in, "why couldn't the Sharingan copy the techniques?" "The way it was explained to me," Naruto answered, "was that unlike doing hand seal that require chakra to be molded outside the body for jutsus, the techniques of shadow skill require the molding of chakra inside the body. I did see an unusual pattern in your chakra when you were fighting Naruto-kun," Hinata added. "And it requires the specific training Darkness gave me to learn to mold the chakra the proper way," Naruto continued. "So what was the training like and could you teach me shadow skill, Naruto-kun?" Rock Lee asked. "Sorry Lee," Naruto replied, "but there can only be one master and one apprentice in shadow skill. Darkness made me promise only to teach it to one person and not to choose lightly." Everyone understood that once Naruto made a promise nothing in this world would get him to break it. But the training. 3 months after the Darkness brought Naruto to the fallen city of Karuta, he began instructing him in shadow skill. The basic foundation of the style is to fight using primarily your feet. And for this Naruto was forced to develop his legs first. To accomplish this, Darkness made him wear extremely heavy weights on his legs and did several exercises that would build his leg muscles. His morning workout would consist of running around the city 10 times and instead of going around any debris that littered the ground, he was told to go over it by either jumping or walking up it. Then once his run was done he would do several kicks alternating each leg while standing on a 5-meter tall pole that was no wider than his foot to also improve his balance. Once that was done he would do near countless squats. After he was done with his morning workout, he would work on the technique that Darkness had showed him for 3 hours. And in the late afternoon and early evening Naruto would work on his upper body. He needed a strong overall body to perform the techniques properly. But the exercises in the evening were geared more towards flexibility rather than strength. Finally, when those exercises were finished, Darkness would train his mind with advanced illusions and games of strategy and tactics. Currently Naruto was practicing one of the lower level techniques of shadow skill. He had the basic principle down, but was still having problems refining it so it had the proper power. Naruto was attempting to destroy a boulder 3 times his size in one shot. So far all he was able to do was cause chips to break off. "Damn, what am I missing?" Naruto asked to no one in particular. "You need to release the chakra just as your foot is fully extended," Darkness answered. Naruto jumped back about a meter. Darkness had a bad habit of showing up out of nowhere rather often. And even though Naruto's senses had increased because of Kyuubi, he still could not feel his approach. "Alright, give me some room," Naruto said. Darkness moved back about 2 meters. Naruto then charged the boulder, jumped and extended his foot. Just as he was about to hit the rock he fully extended his leg and called out sword. In a blinding flash Naruto obliterated the boulder. "Alright." Naruto cheered and he began to jump up and down in celebration at his accomplishment. Darkness silently walked up to Naruto and said, "You will now require an increase in weight and an increase in your flexibility training." "What?" Naruto stopped abruptly, "But why?" "The next technique requires more speed and higher flexibility," Darkness answered. He then raised his hands and the weights on Naruto's legs began to glow. Naruto could feel the weight increase and said, "This feels a lot heavier." "It is at least twice your old weight," Darkness informed. "Now begin stretching against the wall." Naruto obeyed and slowly made his way to a wall about 10 meters away. Once he was there he tried to lift his leg and had trouble. "I can barely lift my legs now." "Use chakra to increase your strength," Darkness instructed. I know," Naruto said, forcing chakra into his legs. He then lifted his leg and placed it against the wall. Once he had his balance corrected he hopped on his support leg towards the wall, forcing his stretching leg higher up the wall. When it was nearly vertical and parallel to his body he asked, "How long do I have to hold this for?" 2 hours. Then switch legs." Naruto grumbled but continued this on into the evening. "And that was only the beginning of the training," Naruto said. "With every technique I learned, Darkness would make my training schedule even tougher. If I didn't heal and recover so quickly I would have probably died even with his healing talismans." Everyone at the ramen stand, his friends and others that were simply listening in, thought the same thing, that kind of schedule could give Lise a run. After about 5 minutes of silence, Hinata asked, why does it use feet primarily? Because of slaves, Naruto answered. Slaves? Several people asked. Yeah, Naruto began to explain. Shadow skill originated from female slaves that were forced to do some rather degrading things. Everything from killing to torture to even rape. Everyone became silent after what Naruto said. Not waiting for a response, he continued, because the slaves had their hands bound and lacked the physical strength to fight back, that had to rely on their feet and limber bodies. Darkness said that it was the most feared of all Karuta killing styles because its entire basis was to free and restore the dignity of the female slaves. Now that I think about it, Sasuke spoke up, when I fought you yesterday I did take notice you seemed to keep your hands close together like they were bond or something. Sounds like Naruto would have an advantage over most shinobi in that case, Shikamaru said. What do you mean? Mogi asked. Well, except for Taijutsu, all jutsu shinobi use require hand seals, Shikamaru explained. From what Naruto just told us, the entire basis for shadow skill is to have your hands bound. That means a regular ninja that gets their hands bound would become pretty useless, but for Naruto it would not matter in any way. The 3 genins at the stand thought for a moment, then nodded in agreement. While Shikamaru was explaining, Kakashi, Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke and Hinata glanced to the side, focusing on someone that just arrived. The younger shinobi turned to Kakashi and he just waved them off. They turned back just as Shikamaru was finished explaining, and Kakashi stood up. Well, I should be heading out, he announced. I have to go meet someone. He again glanced outside. The 4 looked at him again, but he just waved them off again. I'll see you later. After Kakashi left, he walked up with Jiraiya asking, when will your latest book come out? Jiraiya gave him a grin and produced Kakashi's volume. Here, enjoy. He glanced back to the ramen stand. So he is still alive. From behind his new book, Kakashi answered, yes, and it appears that he is already stronger than many jounin. I'm glad to see he's alive, Jiraiya said, walking away. Is what I overheard true? You would have to ask the 3rd to know just how strong shadow skill is, Kakashi said. But from what he has described of his training and what I witnessed, it is incredibly powerful. Good, Jiraiya commented, Konoha will need strong shinobi in the near future. With that, he disappeared, leaving Kakashi to enjoy his book. The next day, Naruto found himself alone wandering the village. The others had their last day off yesterday and went back to their duties. Naruto had yet to be assigned anywhere. He figured that they honestly did not know what to do with him yet. So he decided to take a walk around the village. Word spread rapidly about his evaluation, and the citizens seemed to be avoiding him. It made Naruto remember when he was a child, when everyone would take their children away whenever he showed up. The only difference this time was that instead of giving him hateful looks, they were giving him fearful ones. I'm not sure which is worse, being hated and avoided or being feared and avoided, Naruto thought. He continued his walk until he came to Training Area 7. Once he noticed where he was, he slowly approached the memorial stone and saw his name written on it. When he got close enough, he noticed that there were signs of his name having to be polished and repolished over and over again. I guess some people thought I didn't deserve to be on here, he thought out loud. He then laughed, in a way I guess they were right. He abruptly stood up and called out, I don't like to be spied on. If you want to say something, then say it. A figure came out from behind a tree and slowly approached. When Naruto turned, he saw it was a girl about Konohamaru's age come out. She had the same eyes as Hinata. In fact, she looked a lot like Hinata from when he was at the academy, except the girl before him has longer hair. You're my sister's boyfriend, right? Boyfriend? Naruto asked. And who's your sister? Although he had a very good idea whom this was. Hinata. The girl snapped. Hanabi, right? Naruto asked. Hinata-chan told me a lot about you. The girl nodded, then asked, well, are you? I don't know, Naruto answered. That was not an answer she had expected. Hanabi had thought that he would either say yes or maybe deny being her sister's boyfriend. What do you mean you don't know? She spoke with anger. Just like it sounds, I don't know, Naruto said in an irritated voice. I've only been back for a few days and I'm still getting to know her. Well then, do you at least think she's cute? Hanabi asked. Naruto blushed for a minute and was about to answer, but a voice stopped him. Hanabi, where are you? A middle-aged man with long black hair and wide eyes came into the clearing. Ah, there you are. Your Jounin-sensei is looking for you. The man looked a bit irritated but spoke in a calm voice. I'm sorry, father, Hanabi bowed. I was just talking to him, she pointed at Naruto. The Ashi turned to Naruto with an unreadable expression and turned back to Hanabi. Your sensei should not have to notify me to find you. Yes, father, Hanabi bowed once again. Good day, father. She then left the area, but not before looking at Naruto once again. After she left, Hiashi turned back to Naruto and stared for a moment before turning to leave. Good day, Hyuga-sama, Naruto said as he left. The Ashi paused, turned a bit and said, good day, Uzumaki-san. After he left Naruto fell back, that was intense. He then thought about the two Hyugas, wasn't exactly what I expected Hinata's father to be like that. Then again the Neji is, and the fact that Hinata-chan's father trained him, I shouldn't be surprised. Naruto decided to continue his walk after the encounter with Hinata's sister and father. He was walking by the bathhouses when he heard a familiar laugh coming from nearby. It was not familiar in the voice but in the tone being used. It was the same perverted giggle that Kakashi used when he was reading his Icha Icha books. Following the giggles, Naruto soon came upon a slightly elderly man peeking through a hole in the fence. "Just what do you think you're doing?" Naruto said with unbidden hostility in his voice. The man turned around and once Naruto saw his face a frown formed. "You're that geezer pervert that gave Kakashi-sensei his book yesterday." "Hey, don't call me a geezer," Jiraiya shouted. He then covered mouth real quickly and frantically turned his head, making sure no one saw him. "If you know about my books then you should know I need inspiration to write them." Without another word he turned back around and peeked back through the hole. Naruto was now extremely angry. He never really liked perverts, only liked to embarrass them in front of others. He liked them even less as he grew older, and now here was one being blatantly obvious about it in front of him. He moved forward about to deck the man when a puff of smoke appeared in between the two. "Jiraiya-sama," and Anbu spoke. "The Hokage wishes your presence immediately." He then turned to Naruto, "And he requests your presence as well." Naruto nodded and the Anbu vanished. When he turned back around to again try and deck Jiraiya, he found he was already gone. The third sat in his office with several Jounin and a few Anbu, waiting for the last two people to show up so he could start the meeting. After his talk with Jiraiya yesterday, he decided to take action in preparing for a possible attack within the next couple of months. The first to arrive was his old student and the last Naruto was not far behind him. Once they arrived and took their places he began, according to recent information provided by Jiraiya, "We have learned that there are negotiations going on between Cloud and Stone. We have not had the best relationship with either county in the past, so the negotiations could lead to a security risk for the village. Because of that I am sending a team to investigate potential threats and to see if the rumors about a third party involved are correct. The team will consist of Genma, Kurenai and Aoba. You will leave once I give you the information after the meeting." "Yes, Hokage-sama," the three said together. "And because of the possible threats I am cancelling any rookie Genin team missions that will occur outside the village," the third said. The various Jounin instructors nodded. "Next we will be increasing Anbu patrols outside the village and increase the presence of Jounins that are not assigned to any teams." The two groups nodded in confirmation. "That is all, except for Naruto and Jiraiya, the rest of you pass on the orders." The Hokage then gave a scroll to Genma saying, "Here is all the information you will need." Once everyone was out Naruto asked, "So why did you want us to stay?" The third was about to answer when a knock came from the door. Hinata entered saying, "You wish to see me, Hokage-sama?" "Ah yes, I have called you here because you will be joining these two on their mission," the Hokage said. "Wait a minute, what mission?" Naruto asked. "The mission I had you stay behind to give you," the third answered. "This will be an A rank mission that could take some time. I am sending you on a mission to search for someone and bring her back to the village." "Okay," Naruto said, "if it's A rank that injuries are expect that explains Hinata being a medic and all. But what about him?" Naruto asked turning to Jiraiya, who was staring at Hinata with some drool coming out of his mouth. When Naruto saw this his fist clenched in anger. "Jiraiya is the only one that seems to be able to find her," the Hokage answered. Taking his gaze off Hinata, Jiraiya asked, "What makes you think I know where she is?" The third pulled out his latest Icha Icha book, causing Naruto to clench his fist more and Hinata to blush, and said, "In your latest volume you mentioned an angry she-demon with monster strength," interrupted the hero's pursuit. The Hokage put the book away, "And since you only write about inspiration that happened recently, that implies that you have seen her not too long ago." "Alright," Jiraiya said, "but I'm only doing this because you gave me exclusive privilege to research my next volume without being arrested." That statement had both younger ninjas turn red in embarrassment and anger. "You will leave in an hour," the Hokage ordered, calling an end to the meeting. "Meet me at the main entrance," Jiraiya said. He was about to leave when he felt a tug on his shirt. When Jiraiya turned around, Naruto let go of his shirt and grabbed his neck. "If you peek a Hinata-chan just once," Naruto said in dead cold voice, "I'll make sure you spend the rest of your life breathing through a tube." Naruto then let go of him and went to join Hinata, who left before the other two. It was 4 days since the Hokage had made the new set of orders regarding the security of the village. And true to his word, no rookie genin team was permitted outside the village gates. In fact, very seldom was any genin seen outside the gates. The Jounins that were not assigned a genin team became more visible, and this lightened some of the anxiety of the village. But the Jounins around people felt safe because having such high-rank shinobi around meant that very few people could get into the village unnoticed. In truth, the time only the villagers were on edge was when they saw an increase of visible shinobi was when it came to the Anbu. When the Anbu patrols became noticeable, it always made the citizens nervous. For two reasons. First, even the civilians of the village knew that the Anbu were often given the more undesirable duties of the ninja community. Second, if an increase in Anbu were spotted, it meant that there were less higher-level ninjas to guard the village, and the Anbu were forced to fill those spots. Fortunately, this had not come to pass. The information that Jiraiya had brought gave Konoha an advanced warning to the possible threats from the alliance between Stone and Cloud. Currently, an Anbu captain was meeting with his former Genin team leader for a talk. "How long do you think it will take the Jounin team to get any information back?" Sasuke asked. Kakashi closed his exposed eye and thought, considering that they will be traveling to Cloud, I would say it wouldn't take that long to get there. He paused and thought some more, but considering that this requires covert surveillance to get the information necessary, it could take a while. Why are they heading to Cloud? Sasuke asked. Because although Cloud and Stone are relatively equal distance to Konoha, Cloud is still a peninsula, Kakashi said, it is better to hold the meeting there. Because of the few safe ports from the rough coastlines and one way by land, it's easier to guard against spies, Sasuke concluded. Right, Kakashi stated, believe me, I've been to Cloud a couple of times, much of the coastline is hazardous, even for experienced shinobi. How long are you off until your next mission? Sasuke asked, changing the subject somewhat. I've been given a couple of days off, Kakashi answered. Hokage-sama has the rotation pretty well planned out. I think the next ones in line are Sakura and Guy. In fact, here she comes. Hello Sasuke-kun, Kakashi-sensei, Sakura greeted. How are things going? I've been caught up in my patrols, Sasuke answered, speaking of which I should go meet up with my team. And with that he left the other two. I'm just getting into my new book Jiraiya-sama gave me, Kakashi said with a blush. If Sakura were not used to her perverted teacher, she would smack him for that comment. Well, just remember our deal, Sakura said, don't read those books around me and I won't tell Hokage-sama that you took his last book. Kakashi nodded, slightly nervous. So far the deal had worked out, but it was hard to put down the latest volume. Well, anyway, I should go meet up with Guy and get started on my next mission. As soon as Sakura was out of sight, Kakashi took out his book. Finally, now I can see what happens next after the shower scene. A little over 5 days travel, for a non-shinobi, 3 people were setting up camp for the night. So how are we supposed to find this, Tsunade? Naruto asked. We'll ask around at some of the local gambling houses, Jiraiya answered. Why gambling houses? Naruto asked, confused. I thought she was a medic. She is, Naruto-kun, Hinata answered, but Tsunade is reported to have a bit of a gambling problem. Not to mention being very bad at it, Jiraiya answered. Let me guess, your plan is for us to pose as debt collectors, Naruto said. Jiraiya nodded in confirmation. But Hinata-chan, how do you know about her gambling problem? Well, anyone who wants to be a medic learns about Tsunade, Hinata answers. And from my studies I heard about her nickname. What's her nickname? Asked a curious Naruto. It's the legendary sucker, Jiraiya answered with a grin. After a few moments of silence, Hinata stood up, causing Naruto to ask, where are you going, Hinata-chan? Hinata blushed for a moment. I was just going for a walk too. As she talked, her face became increasingly red. Naruto caught on to what she was trying to say and blushed in embarrassment. Oh well, don't wander off too far. As she left, Jiraiya followed her path with his head and was about to mention someone should keep an eye on her. But the ice-cold stare he felt from behind him, where Naruto was, made him remember the threat he gave him before the group left. Deciding it would be best to side on caution for once when it came to his pervertedness, Jiraiya did not mention it. Instead he asked, how should we do the watch? Naruto, still with his icy stare, replied, I should take the late watch. I can see better in the dark than either of you. How is that? Jiraiya asked. My eyes are more photosensitive than a normal person's, Naruto said, pointing to his slitted eyes. And I can increase my night vision even more with chakra. Having sensitive eyes like that can be a great weakness as well as strength, Jiraiya cautioned. Believe me, I know, Naruto said, shaking his head. When I first got them one night when I was away, I had not realized until I woke up the next day how sensitive they truly were. Almost blinded myself when I woke up, but I've learned to adjust to the extra sensitivity even when I enhanced then even more. Well then, you taking the latest shift is fine with me, Jiraiya said, then I'll take the middle and Hinata will take the first. Alright, we'll tell her when she gets back, Naruto said. About 10 minutes later, Hinata arrived and was informed of the watch rotation. She agreed and the three settled in for the night. It was about 2 hours before the first rays of sunrise would reach the group. Naruto was in the middle of his turn at watch when he heard some commotion not far off. Slowly reaching over, he shook Hinata awake, who had fallen asleep right next to him. When she opened her eyes, Naruto made a gesture for her to remain still. She complied and then he scratched by his eyes after giving her the briefest of glances. Hinata understood the gesture and silently activated her blood limit where she lay. After scanning the area, she moved fingers a few times, telling Naruto how many there were. After a few minutes of silence, Naruto heard some rustling again. This time it was less than 5 meters away from the campsite. "Wake up Hirosenin," Naruto said. "We got company." Naruto stood up just as Jiraiya woke. "How many?" Jiraiya asked. "I counted at least 6, Hinata said, standing herself. As the 3 traveling companions took a defensive position, 6 figures emerged from the bushes and trees. "Who are you and what do you want?" Naruto asked. The 6 opponents gave no response except for attacking by throwing several kunai and shuriken. The 3 easily dodged and spilt off to attack. Naruto disappeared from sight, then reappeared behind one of the enemies and kicked him, sending the enemy into a nearby tree. Hinata once again activated her blood limit and quickly struck one closest to her with a combination chakra scalpel and gentle fist, rendering one arm and leg of her opponent completely useless. Jiraiya had summoned a toad as large as him, and the toad used its tongue to knock his opponents away. Both the injured and non-injured of the 6 attackers moved back with varying degrees of ease. "You can't win," Naruto said. "Give up." Again there came no response from the enemies, except this time in addition to taking out more weapons, strange black marks began to appear on their skin. "Kill them quickly," Jiraiya ordered. As the marks continued to expand, Naruto and Hinata heard Jiraiya's order and wondered why he said that. Their silent question was answered when they felt a sudden upsurge of chakra from the opponents. Not wasting any more time, Naruto and Hinata charged their previous opponents. Naruto jumped into the air, spun and kicked the one he previously injured in the neck, killing him instantly. The other was able to jump away, but as soon as Naruto landed he quickly threw out his hand shouting "Heiken." A burst of wind came out of his hands, hitting his last opponent before he could finish his hand seals. Naruto, capitalizing on his advantage, decided to end this now and followed up with rapier. The powerful technique killed the enemy before he knew what hit him. Hinata charged just as Naruto did. But instead of going after the weakened opponent, she went for the stronger one. She felt that with the injuries she gave the other one, he would not be of much help. Hinata quickly moved in, striking several chakra points, as well as cutting vital organs with her chakra scalpels. She quickly rendered him unconscious and barely alive. Luckily for her, she had her blood limit activated, otherwise she would have been struck by several shurikens in the back. Jumping to avoid the attack, Hinata quickly scanned the direction they came from. To her surprise, she noticed that the injured opponent now had a different chakra pattern than before. The brief pause was enough time for the attacker to charge her. "Unfortunately for him," Hinata said, "you have just entered my range of deviation." She then rushed forward, performing Haki Rakuju Yanshio. She quickly struck the 64 chakra points, killing the enemy. Jiraiya, not having hesitated, jumped off his frog and quickly killed the uninjured attacker before the marks could fully spread. At the same time, his toad attacked the injured opponent and killed him quickly as well. After the battle, Naruto asked, "Who the hell were they? And what the hell were those marks?" "Their forehead protector shows they are from Hidden Sound," Hinata said, examining one of the bodies. She looked back up to Naruto and continued, "Hidden Sound in a new shinobi village that showed up not long after you left. But as to the marks, they're curse seals," Jiraiya answered, "but unlike the ones on the branch house of the Hyuga, these don't lessen the person's ability, they increase it." "Then why are they curse seals?" Hinata asked. "Because most people don't survive if the seal gets planted on them," Jiraiya replied, "that and if the person is unwilling to fight it, they lose their mind to the seal." "How do you know so much about them?" Naruto asked. "I'll tell you later," Jiraiya responded, "but right now we need to break camp and hurry up and find Tsunade." 3 days later, in a darkened chamber, a man wearing glasses slowly approached another man with yellow eyes. "Orochimaru-sama," Kabuto greeted. The team that was sent to follow Jiraiya and his 2 companions was found killed. "Those fools," Orochimaru said, "they should not have tried to attack my old teammate." "Orochimaru-sama," Kabuto spoke again, "whom will you send after Jiraiya? If he contacts Tsunade and convinces her to rejoin Konoha, I am aware what will happen." "Kabuto," Orochimaru said angrily. "Is there any word on whom is accompanying Jiraiya?" "Our spies tell us that the girl is the Hyuga heiress," Kabuto informed, "and the boy is someone that goes by the name of Shadow Claw. Our spies also tell us that this Shadow Claw fights in an unknown fighting style, and it is quite powerful." Orochimaru thought for a minute. "Send the Sound 4, he ordered. "Tell them to watch and wait. I wish to know more about this unknown fighting style and maybe get an opportunity to get the Byakugan." "Yes, Orochimaru-sama," Kabuto bowed, then left. Naruto, Jiraiya and Hinata had been traveling for a week and a half, straight at their best speed, only stopping for quick episodes of rest. After the attack from the Sound Shinobi, Jiraiya insisted that they get as far away as possible from their previous location. They were now near the western boundaries of Fire Country, and they decided to once again continue their search for Tsunade. There were several towns around their location, but only a few had any gambling. The group had decided to concentrate their search solely to the gambling city in hopes of hearing recent stories of a woman with severe bad luck. So far they had come up with nothing. "You know, I'm beginning to think that Tsunade might have just gone underground," Naruto said, brushing his hair out of his eyes. He was not wearing his forehead protector so his hair fell down over his eyes. Jiraiya had suggested removing their forehead protectors in order to blend in around the villages without using chakra that could be detected. From the way you describe her debts, it would be the smartest thing she could do. For a normal person yes, Jiraiya replied, but with Tsunade, she just can't resist gambling. Well if we do not find any information from the next town, Hinata joined in, where will we go from there? We'll have to leave the country and search some of the smaller countries, Jiraiya said. Fortunately Tsunade doesn't travel much in other shinobi countries. Why is that? Naruto asked. Because regardless of the reasons why she left, she will not give up any secrets to another country, Jiraiya explained. Both Hinata and Naruto nodded in understanding, both knew from their own experiences what it meant to keep secrets about techniques to themselves. It did not take them much longer to reach the next village. This one was about medium-sized and was pretty much designated as a tourist town. That meant that there were quite a number of gambling houses that would appeal to Tsunade, as well as other methods of distraction that would appeal to Jiraiya. After looking around for a minute and noticing several said distractions, Jiraiya announced, "Why don't you two head to a hotel and book us a couple of rooms? I'll start searching for information." Though he did not specify what kind of information, the slight drool at the corner of his mouth told his companions everything they needed to know. "Thus don't spend any of our money you pervert," Naruto said after the retreating Jiraiya. Sighing he turned to Hinata, "We should probably check into an inexpensive hotel, then search ourselves." "Okay Naruto-kun," Hinata agreed, "I think the best place would probably be at the north side of the village. It's away from the major tourist spots so the rates should lower." "That sounds good Hinata-chan," Naruto said. After searching for a half an hour they found one they could afford. As they approached the front desk the elderly manager greeted, "Hello there, what a lovely couple you are, would you like a room to rent?" Both Hinata and Naruto blushed slightly, "Yes, we would like to stay here, but we would like 2 rooms please." "Oh," the manager said then leaned over the counter and whispered to Naruto, "You haven't reached that point yet." Although the manager whispered Hinata was still able to hear him, I'm sorry sir, but we would like 2 rooms because we are traveling with a third person." She was cut off the manager, "Oh I see you two want some privacy I understand. Here are your room keys. Your rooms will be across the hall from each other on the 2nd floor. First door on your right has the larger bed." Both blushed at the misinterpretation even more, but when they tried to correct him, the manager would just disregard them. So the two did not press and went to their rooms. Once they unpacked the two met outside, pointedly avoiding the manager, to start checking some of the gambling houses. After they checked out the 3rd gambling house and still had no luck, Naruto and Hinata decided to take a break. After traveling for 2 days non-stop to even catch their breath and spending half the day searching, the two began to feel fatigue setting in. The two teenagers decided to get something to eat and then relax for a couple of hours. They figured by that time their older companion would have either run out of money or just been run out of wherever he was and then go search for him. During the few moments that Hinata left Naruto alone, he noticed he was next to a rather small gambling house. There was an open slot machine next to the entrance and yielding to his curiosity, Naruto placed a coin into the machine and to his surprise he won. Hinata had come back to the spot where she left Naruto not too long ago. She looked around trying to locate him, but because they were in the busier part of the town, she could not see him through the crowd. After several minutes of looking and not finding any trace of Naruto, she decided to search a different way. Silently activating her blood limit, Hinata quickly picked up a strongly suppressed chakra signature not too far from where she was. Deactivating her blood limit, Hinata went toward the signature and when she arrived she was surprised to see that it was not Naruto that she sensed. In fact it was a woman carrying a small pig. The woman seemed to notice someone was looking at her and turned towards Hinata. When their eyes met the woman became startled saying, "Hi Uga." Back at Naruto, he was on his 10th game on the slot machine. And although he lost 7 of those games, the 3 he won had been jackpots. So his pile of coins had become rather high. Naruto was about to stick another coin in when he felt someone watching him from behind. He turned back to see a well-endowed woman first looking at his pile of money then at him. "It seems you've got pretty good luck kid. Want to try a real game with me?" After glancing around the area for a moment Naruto shrugged, "I guess a quick game won't hurt." With that he took the winnings from the slot machine and followed the well-endowed woman further back into the gambling house. "Oh I see," the woman carrying the pig, now known as Shizune, said. "So you're on a mission?" "Yes," Hinata answered. She kept the details to herself because, although Shizune claimed to be from Konoha, Hinata was not sure if she was telling the truth. And after the attack from the sound ninjas it was better to side with caution. "Well I'm sure TS Shizune was cut off by a large amount of commotion coming from down the street." Looking in the direction Shizune noticed that the disturbance came from a gambling house. She sighed, "Not again," and ran off in the same direction. Hinata was confused for a moment but decided to follow to see what had happened. When the two arrived at the gambling house they heard a shout from within, "I know you two are cheating." The only hands you've lost are to each other. How could we be cheating? A female voice shouted back, I just met this kid 10 minutes ago. Yeah. A male voice agreed, just because you suck doesn't mean the others are cheating. Oh no, Shizune said as she recognized a female voice. Hinata had similar thoughts as she recognized the male voice. Back inside, the conflict began to escalate. Give me back my money and there won't be any trouble, the man who had lost the last 3 hands said. Hey, you lost fair and square. Naruto retorted. And if you don't want to lose more than just your money, I suggest you leave. I agree with my new friend here, Tsunade said. I've lost my fair share of hands in the past, but I never accused a person of cheating who wasn't. You're just being a sore loser. Do you have any idea who I am? The man asked. Not really, should I? Naruto asked with a smirk. That's it. The man pulled out a short sword from his back and along with 3 other people that were watching from close by attacked. Naruto gazed at the attackers and knew they were no threat, so he let them come. 2 attacked him while the other 2 attacked the woman to his right. The 2 attacking Naruto both swung their swords down at Naruto, and to their surprise Naruto brought his forearm up and blocked the attack. Thanks in part to the weights on his arm, but mostly because of his strength, he not only stopped the blades, they also broke on his arm. Sighing, Naruto said, such low-quality weapons. Then looking up, he saw the horror-stricken looks on the 2 men's faces. Taking a deep breath, Naruto yelled, "Boo." The 2 men jumped back and quickly ran out the exit. Naruto turned to the woman and saw she was holding her 2 attackers in one hand by their shirts and a sake bottle in the other. She then crushed the sake bottle and said, if you come near me again you'll end up just like the sake bottle. With that she threw the 2 men out the entrance. Well, that was fun, so what's your name, kid? Uzumaki Naruto, Naruto said with a big smile. What's yours? Tsunade seemed to flinch at the smile briefly, but the shock quickly left. She answered, but she was interrupted by a voice from the entrance. Tsunade-sama. Naruto turned to the source of the voice and noticed Hinata was standing next to a woman holding a pig. He then caught what the woman next to Hinata said, wait, you're Tsunade. Tsunade turned away from Shizune and the Hyuga with her to the teenager next to her and responded, yeah, have we met? After the rather eventful meeting, the 4 shinobi and pig left the gambling house. They made their way to a bar close by to discuss why Naruto and Hinata were there. After they were seated, Tsunade began to drink sake. She figured with 2 Konoha shinobi she would need a drink. Her first question was, so where is your 3rd member? Konoha shinobi usually travel in groups of 3 or 4. We're not sure where our 3rd member is, Naruto said. But that old pervert is probably at some bathhouse trying to get a glimpse of some girls. Old pervert? Tsunade questioned, don't tell me he sent Jiraiya with you kids. Okage-sama did, Tsunade-sama, Hinata answered. Tsunade sighed, so I'm assuming that you are here to try and convince me to head back, right? She received a nod from the 2 young shinobi, well, you can forget it. I'm not going back. Naruto was about to retort when a loud smack was heard from across the room. He turned to see a very angry-looking young woman walking away from a white-haired man with a large red welt on his face. Doesn't that geezer have any self-control? Tsunade looked in the same direction as Naruto and said, not for as long as I've known him. At this point Jiraiya was rubbing his face when he saw his companions as well as his former teammates sitting at the same table. Making his way over to them, he could not help but comment, Naruto, I knew you had in you to get with more than one lady, but I never thought Tsunade would go for someone your age. The response he got was total blackout. After a few minutes Jiraiya woke back up only to find Tsunade and Shizune there with him. What happened to Naruto and Hinata? Hinata started to look rather tired, Shizune answered. And Naruto took her back to the hotel they checked into. Naruto said that it's at the other end of town and that yours and his room are on the left just up the stairs. He also said his threat still stands, Tsunade added. She saw a slight shiver run down Jiraiya's spine and smiled. She had to admit that except for the fact that Naruto was from Konoha and was here to bring her back, she kind of liked him. Especially since she seemed to win at gambling when he was around. Her time with Naruto just a short while ago was first time she won it all in a long time. So sensei wants me back, Tsunade said, getting back to the reason Jiraiya was there. Yeah, he answered. There's trouble coming and he wants you there to help. I have to give the old man credit, Tsunade smirked. I always said that the Hyuga with their blood limit would make good medics, and so he sends one to find me to make me feel all nostalgic. Well, it won't work, I'm still not coming back. That was one of his reasons for sending her, yes, Jiraiya commented. But his real reason was to make sure Naruto comes back. Intrigued, Tsunade asked, what's so special about him? Jiraiya faced her with a serious expression, he's the 4th's legacy. You mean he's? Tsunade asked, surprised. Jiraiya nodded in confirmation, I thought he died 2 years ago. That's what everyone thought, Jiraiya replied. Bringing out all the stops, Tsunade whispered. Sending a reminder of what it means to sacrifice for the village brought back a lot of old memories, both good and bad. Her face contorted to a scowl and she said, well, he isn't going to change my mind, I'm not going back. She stood up, let's go, Shizune. Tsunade then left with Shizune following behind. Almost got to her there, Jiraiya mused. Not a bad plan, sensei, but you may have had the opposite effect of what you were trying to do. Just after Jiraiya left, a woman from the other side of the room got up from her table and left. She had been silently observing the exchange between the group of shinobi, but she went unnoticed because of the continuous distractions the shinobi were subjected to. As the woman made her way out of the village, she went to a small forest and fell to the ground. In her place was what appeared to a demon with white hair and a bone-plated arm. The demon began to transform into a human with black marks on his body. As he transformed, he called out, "Brother, I have the information." 4 figures appeared next to the now human. One person stepped forward and he began to absorb the first human. After a few moments, the person turned to his companions, now spotting 2 heads, one right behind the other, one facing his companions and one away. "So Seiken, what is the news your brother has?" the only woman of the group asked. "Well, Taiya," Seiken answered, "the Hyuga and the one called Shadow Claw have left the group. And although they made contact with Tsunade, they could not convince her to join them. Now's the perfect time to attack them and take the Hyuga's eyes." Orochimaru-sama said, "We should watch them," the largest one said. "Shut up, you fat idiot," Taiya said. Orochimaru-sama also said he wanted the Byakugan. "You ugly wench," the large one began. "Shut up, Jirabu," the one with 6 arms said. "Taiya and Seiken are right. We should take this chance while they are separated to finish the weaker ones. Then let's get going," Seiken ordered. "We should still be cautious, however," the 6-armed one warned. From what Kabuto said, this Shadow Claw is at Jounin level and could compete on the same level of Uchiha Sasuke. The body Orochimaru-sama still wants. "Kidomaru is right," Taiya agreed, "we should think of a plan first." "Very well," Seiken said, "my brother said that they were both tired from the trip here and should be resting. But that still does not give us much time." In his hotel room, Naruto woke from his slumber due to a ringing in his ear. He looked around the room and noticed that he was still alone. "Wonder how long I've been asleep." After looking at the clock next to his bed, he cursed, "Damn. I didn't mean to sleep for 4 hours." He stood up and moved to the door. "Better go see and Hinata-chan is alright." After they returned to the hotel, he took Hinata into her room. The fatigue finally caught up to her and she was only half awake by the time they reached their rooms. He had to help her to the bed and as soon as she hit it, she fell asleep. Leaving the room, he noticed that the door to Hinata's room was slightly open. Naruto's first thought was, if Hiro-san tried to peek at her, I swear I'll kill him. When he moved closer to shut the door, he noticed there was no sound of breathing coming from the room. Cautiously, he opened the door and noticed the bed was empty. "She wouldn't have left the hotel without trying to wake me, and I would have heard her." A creak from the stairs caught his attention. Moving to investigate the noise, Naruto saw Hinata just reach the bottom of the stairs. "Hinata-chan." He called but got no answer. Naruto rushed down the stairs to follow her after he got no response from his call. When he reached Hinata, he stopped her with his hand and turned her around. When he met her face, he realized she was in a trance and then noticed that the ringing in his ears had not left. "Someone put us under a genjutsu that attacks our hearing, but because I can detect subsonic noises, I can hear the sound." He then thought for a minute, "Now how do you undo a genjutsu placed on someone else?" After a few minutes, he remembered and placed his hands on Hinata's forehead and said, "Release." Hinata blinked a few times and saw Naruto standing right in front of her. "Naruto-kun?" Hinata questioned what happened. "You were under a powerful genjutsu that attacks using sound," Naruto answered. "The source is coming from outside the village. And I'm not sure where Hiro-san or Tsunade is. We should find out who is after us," Hinata said. "That's what I was thinking, Hinata-chan," Naruto smiled. "Since the genjutsu was focused on us, we can assume they are expecting us soon. The genjutsu doesn't affect me because I can hear the sound, and now that you know about it, it will no longer affect you. We can use that to our advantage and follow the source. They won't be expecting us not to be under the genjutsu, and we can surprise them." "But we don't know how many there are," Hinata objected. "We can't just walk into a situation without knowing the numbers of enemies or their strengths." Naruto nodded. Hinata was right. "We need to find out who they are and what they want without us being at risk," Naruto thought out loud. "I know. I haven't used these in a long time." Naruto performed some hand seals calling, "Kage Bushin no Jutsu." 2 Narutos appeared and then one immediately called, "Henge," and transformed into Hinata. The original Naruto turned to Hinata. "This probably won't fool them for long, but it should give us enough time to see their numbers at least," Hinata finished. Back at the forest, the Sound Four were impatiently waiting for the pair of shinobi to arrive. "Your genjutsu probably failed," Jirabu said. Taiya paused from her flute, "Shut up, you fattest," and went back to her flute. Jirabu was about to retort when their targets entered the area. Because of the group's impatience, they jumped down out of the trees without pause. When they approached, they noticed something strange. "Wait," Taiya said, "their eyes should not be that alert." "Finally figured it out that your genjutsu has no effect on us?" the blonde taunted. "No matter," Seiken said, "Kidomaru." Hidemaru quickly performed several hand seals calling, Ninpu, Kumashi Bari, a web shot out of his mouth and captured the two-leaf shinobi before they could act. The girl doesn't have the Hyuga curse seal, Seiken noticed, that means we can kill her and take her eyes. It'll be much less hassle than trying to take her alive. Then let me finish them, Jirabu said, I'm feeling rather hungry. Fine. Taiya frowned, just do it already, the longer we stay here the more likely the two Sannin will find us. Jirabu stepped forward doing some hand seals, but before he could finish Hidemaru whispered, stop, there are more people out there. The others looked at him and he continued, at least 2 more are coming this way, it must be the Sannins, we don't have time for you to feed. Seiken pulled out 2 kunai, then we need to kill them quickly. He threw the kunai, and when they hit their targets to all 4's surprise the 2 shinobi in the web disappeared in a burst of smoke. Damn, Cage Bushins, they're better than I thought. Just as Seiken finished speaking a person yelled, sword. A body then dashed into the clearing striking him in the chest, sending him into a nearby tree. The other 3 had been able to jump out of the way, but Taiya had jumped the wrong way as another person came from behind her and stuck at her neck. The second ninja then joined her partner soon after Taiya hit the ground unable to move. 2 down, 2 to go, Naruto said as Hinata joined him. They both took their preferred stances preparing to attack again. They scanned the area but were only able to find the 2 they injured and the big one, Hinata-chan, where did the one with 6 arms go? Hinata activated her blood limit, but before she could scan the entire area, an arrow shot through the dark just narrowly missing the pair. The 2 then jumped away from each other in order to spread out the archer's targets. Unfortunately the 2 jumped right into the enemy's hands, literally. Seiken caught Naruto and Hinata was caught by Jirabu, both were able to move fast enough to catch Naruto and Hinata because they activated the curse seals. When Naruto saw who had him he said, you should be knocked out, I got a clean hit. Not as clean as you think, Seiken smirked, my brother blocked your kick just before it hit my chest. I don't know what kind of jutsu that was, but it is no match for me. Naruto narrowed his eyes saying, don't underestimate shadow skill. Seiken was about to say something, but Naruto yelled, tomahawk. He thrust his feet out hitting Seiken directly in the chin, causing Naruto to drop. As soon as Naruto hit the ground he jumped and called sword. Knocking Seiken away. Meanwhile Jirabu held onto Hinata firmly saying, your chakra must be delicious since you're a Hyuga. He then began to absorb Hinata's chakra. Hinata tried to pull out, but she lacked the strength to break free. As she felt her chakra being drained from her body she began to panic. I haven't learned the Haki Shukaten yet. If I did then I could easily break free of his arms. Then she remembered, wait the nerves in the forearms control the hands. Quickly channeling chakra into her legs, she flung both legs up and hit Jirabu's right arm, forcing him to loosen his grip. Taking the opportunity she had, Hinata rotated her body out of his left and dropped to the ground, then began striking chakra holes. Jirabu jumped back and just as Hinata was about to pursue him an arrow stopped her advance. Jumping away she decided it would be best to rejoin Naruto. As Hinata rejoined with Naruto under the cover of some trees so the archer could not spot them, Seiken and Jirabu gathered with Taiya. Can you stand? Seiken asked. Yeah, Taiya stood though barely, that little bitch must be a medic, she hit my neck messing up my muscle control. Yes they're better than we thought, Jirabu commented. We'll have to use level 2, Seiken said. We can't afford for them to team up with the Sannin. He then shouted, Kiramaru keep us covered. The 3 of the 4 sounds began to change once again, become artificial demons in their level 2 form. Hearing the shout and seeing the change Naruto cursed, damn, with the archer it will be harder for us to attack. He then looked at Hinata, Hinata-chan I need you to go and take out that 6-armed freak. But Naruto-kun you can't. Yes I can, Naruto said never taking his eyes of the enemy, but only if that archer is preoccupied. Okay Naruto-kun you can count on me, Hinata said determined and dashed off to find the 4th enemy. The 3 saw Hinata leave and were about to go after her when Naruto's voice stopped them, you aren't going anywhere. You're going to fighting me. Ahahaha, Seiken laughed, at curse seal level 2 we are each 10 times stronger than we were before. And if you think your girlfriend will be safe by running away, then you should know my brother is already after her. You think that little bit of power is enough to stop me? Naruto taunted. Let me show you what real power is. Naruto then used the quick release on his weights and they fell with a crash to the ground. I am invincible. As Naruto began to speak his muscles began to flex and his chakra output increased. No one can defeat my shadow skill. As Naruto continued to speak his muscles increased, the chakra output further exploded and the ground under him began to crack. And no one can survive one of my blows. By the time Naruto finished he was hunched over the chakra output from his body had increased to beyond what the 4 sound thought possible. When Naruto looked at his enemies he could see the amazed looks on their deformed faces, it's not over yet. Kamui. Further surprising the 3 Naruto's muscles, which were nearly ripping out of his skin a second ago began to relax, though still visible they did not look as large as before. Right before their eyes Naruto vanished from sight. The next thing they heard was, chainsaw. And then the transformed three each felt a devastating kick and were then be sent flying backwards. Irabu being the largest and strongest was the first to stand. He scanned the area only finding his teammates. Soon after they stood up and he asked, what did he do? I used the Kamui principle, Naruto answered from a tree not far away. It relaxes my muscles making me 6 times faster than before. That combined with the language of martial arts that increase my physical power and chakra output, you won't last 5 minutes against me. Even with those cursed seals. Naruto then disappeared from sight again and again, each of the three felt another kick that sent them flying. Just after she left Hinata felt a familiar rise in chakra coming from Naruto, that's like what happened when he fought Sasuke, only this time he feels even stronger. Shaking herself out of her shock Hinata activated her Byakugan. It did not take her long to spot the fourth member of the Sound Four in a tree, more than 200 meters away. He must have impeccable aim to hit a target at that distance. Hinata thought for a moment before deciding the best way to take out the archer would be to attack from behind at close range. But because she did not know how long Naruto could fight at the level he was at, she could not afford to waste time. As long as I keep him in sight as I should be able to dodge his arrows. With her decision made Hinata dashed off in a direct line to the archer. What she did not notice however was that a person was following her as she raced ahead. Kidomaru easily detected Hinata's approach as she came at him head-on. He turned to face her and shot out his arrow. Hinata went dodged the attack and continued to move in, but to her surprise, she saw a string of webbing attached to the end guiding the arrow, making it go where she dodged. Fortunately she was quick enough to keep the arrow from hitting anything vital. Hinata ducked behind a tree still using her blood limit to track her enemy. Hinata focused chakra into her hands and healed the damage the arrow inflicted. Kidomaru thought, I saw what she was able to do to the others. If she get in close range I'm done for. I have to finish her quickly because from what I saw back at the others unless I give them cover that Shadow Claw guy will pick them apart. I still can't believe someone could produce that kind of power. If I focus on the chakra I saw him use to guide the arrows with a web, Hinata thought. I may be able to cut them before the arrow can hit me as I dodge. The problem is that switching from sensing chakra to 360-degree sight continuously will use up a lot of my chakra, but that appears to be the best solution. After she fully healed her wound Hinata charged her enemy once again. And again the enemy shot his arrow. Hinata leapt left and threw a shuriken at the chakra traveling behind the arrow and suddenly the chakra stopped flowing. She quickly switched back to 360 sight and dodged the erratic arrow and continued forward. Damn. Kiromaru though, she cut the web. I have to move before she gets here. He jumped from his sniper position and ran through the tree branches in hopes of losing his pursuer. Every now and again he would glance back to see if Hinata was still following, and every time he did he saw she was right in a direct path to him. After he shot a couple of arrows to try and throw her off course Kiromaru looked back one last time and suddenly found his pursuer gone. Where did she go? Kiromaru was looking around frantically when he heard, you are in my range of deviation. Panicked Kiromaru shot his arrow in the direction of the voice. Too bad for him he only was able to graze Hinata as she charged in, Haki Rakuju Yonshu. Hinata, with gentle fist and charka scalpels, struck so fast her hands were a mere blur as she struck her enemy completely devastating him. As Kiromaru stumbled back and collapsed and Hinata dropped to her knees in exhaustion. I've done it Naruto-kun you can finish them now. You may have finished him off, but you haven't dealt with me. Hinata turned to the voice and was shocked, but I thought you were fighting Naruto-kun. That is my brother Seiken, I am Yukin, the new arrival said. And with you being so weak you won't be any match for me. He rushed forward and punched at Hinata shouting, Taren Ken. To Hinata it felt like 100 punches struck her at once. The sheer force of the punches sent her flying back about 3 meters, now you won't have any defense against this. Yukin approached Hinata and slowly began to merge his body with hers. What are you doing? Hinata asked as Yukin pulled his last limb into her. You should know that chakra flows through the body like blood, Yukin answered, I can merge my body with yours and use my chakra to attack your vital organs, like this. Ahhh. Hinata screamed at the amount of pain. She could feel Yukin attacking every one of her vital organs. It felt like hands were squeezing the very life out of her body. I don't have the chakra to fight back, otherwise I would do the same to him. That means there's only one option. Struggling to maneuver her hand Hinata brought it to her neck saying, if we are joined then what kills me will kill you. With that said she struck her neck and her body started to go limp. Yukin yelled, Ag. You bitch. He could feel his body begin to go limp as well as Hinata's and quickly extracted himself from her. As he did he saw Hinata struggling to stay awake he said clever striking your own body to hurt me, but to reverse the effect all I have to do is extract myself from your body. So now only you will die. As he turned to walk away his curse seal began to fade. Damn I've been out of Seiken too long. I have to hurry back. Yukin started to run when he felt something pierce his back. "You aren't going anywhere," Hinata said, breathing heavily. She had chakra scalpels activated and extended into Yukin's lung. "How? You were dead?" Yukin asked. Just before he dropped he heard, "I used a pressure point to simulate death for a few seconds to get you to leave my body so I could get a clean shot." Extracting her hands, Hinata dropped from complete exhaustion. Running through the forest were the two Sannin and the apprentice and traveling partner of Tsunade. They had been in town when the felt four very powerful chakra signatures spike into existence, then to their amazement, they felt another that seemed to dwarf the four previous erupt from the same area. Before they met to find the chakra sources. Just after Naruto left with Hinata and Jiraiya woke up, Tsunade left the bar to think. "You damn old man, making me think about them." She began to think of the two most important people she ever had in her life. He has my brother's smile, and when he looked at Hinata, it was the look Dan gave. Looking at her, thoughts were interrupted by Shizune. "Tsunade-sama?" Shizune asked, "What will you do?" Shizune had not seen her longtime friend like this in quite a while. She knew Tsunade better than anyone and knew by the look on her face she was thinking about the people she loved the most. "I know it's not my place, but I think you should go." She stopped when Tsunade's look began to get angry. "Shizune," Tsunade began. Tsunade knew what Shizune was about to say, and if it were any other night she would have told her to mind her own business in less polite terms. But right now she just did not have the will to say anything. "Let's go to the hotel, I'm kind of tired." Shizune nodded silently and followed. Jiraiya was making his way back to the one place he could think, the bathhouse. The meeting between Tsunade had not gone as he expected. He had expected it to be much less painful, but maybe also more productive. He could see that they had struck a chord somewhere, but in the end she refused to bend. Damn woman is too stubborn for her or anyone's own good. His thoughts on Tsunade ended as he saw three young women enter the women's side and he began to take notes. About 4 hours after they left the bar, the three ninjas felt 5 powerful chakra signatures. The three raced from their spots to the center of town. "What was that?" Shizune asked. "Those first 4 felt like Orochimaru's curse seals," Tsunade answered, "only more powerful. As for the 5th, I have no idea, I've never felt anything like it." "That's exactly what the first 4 were," Jiraiya commented. "That snake has refined the process to make them more powerful. And the 5th, I think it was Naruto." "Naruto?" Tsunade asked, "But that wasn't the Kyuubi's chakra." "According to sensei," Jiraiya said, "the Kyuubi is no longer in Naruto." At the mention of Kyuubi no longer being imprisoned, both Tsunade and Shizune became horrified. "It's not what you think, and I'll tell you later. But right now we need to help them." With that the three took off to help the younger shinobi. As they traveled through the forest they felt some of the signatures fade from existence. When they got closer they spotted signs of a recent battle and stopped to investigate. The first thing they came across was the body of a 6-armed man with clear indications he was involved in a battle with a Hyuga. The next was the Hyuga herself, lying next to another body with signs of being attacked with chakra scalpels. Tsunade began to shake as she saw blood coming from the bodies' mouths. Shizune, seeing this, investigated the Hinata's form. "Looks like it's just chakra depletion. She should be fine," she said as she healed the wound from an arrow. "Good, bring her," Jiraiya ordered. "We have to find Naruto." Shizune picked up Hinata and the three moved away from the bodies with Tsunade in the lead. It was as if she wanted more to get away from the blood than find Naruto. Not far from where they found Hinata and the bodies they found Naruto standing facing one remaining shinobi. There were 2 others, but one, that looked like the one Hinata killed, was dead and the other, a large man, was severely beaten. The only one left was staring in shock at the teenager before her as her curse seal retracted and her summons began to disappear in a cloud of smoke. "Utterly defeated. If you value your life, leave," came Jiraiya's voice. The woman, fearing for her life from the monster of a human and prospect of fighting 2 of the Sannin, departed from the scene. After she left, Naruto stopped his techniques and fell to the ground. To a normal person he looked fine, but to a person with the ability to scan for injuries, they could tell that he had massive internal damage from whatever he did to himself. This was what Hinata sensed as soon as she woke up in Shizune's arms. "Naruto-kun." She broke free of her restraint and rushed to his side. "Don't worry, I'll heal you." She brought her hands over Naruto's chest and tried to heal him. But unfortunately she did not have the chakra to even activate the healing jutsu. "Naruto-kun. I'll heal you, don't worry." But as desperate as she was, she just did not have the chakra to do it. "Naruto-kun. Naruto." Shizune was about to step in when a hand stopped her. She looked back and saw Jiraiya shaking his head. Shizune was about to smack his arm off when he gestured to Tsunade. Shizune turned to see Tsunade shaking from all the blood, but her gaze was fixed on Hinata desperately trying to save Naruto. In Tsunade's eyes, she did not see Hinata trying to save Naruto. She saw herself trying to save her fiancé Dan. One side of her mind was screaming for her body to move to help save the young teenager. One side was frozen at the memory of her failing to save her love. And yet another frozen by her fear of blood. She remained immobile until she heard a whisper through all her conflicting thoughts ask, "Do you want her to go through what you did?" The whisper brought her out of her confusion, she pushed her fear of blood aside and sprinted toward the two young shinobi. When she got there, Hinata was still trying to activate her healing jutsus and still not succeeding. "Move," Tsunade ordered as she pushed Hinata aside. Tsunade placed her hands on Naruto's chest and began to heal his wounds. For several minutes it seemed like nothing was happening, but Tsunade refused to quit. She kept pouring more of her own chakra into Naruto's body until they heard Naruto begin to cough. She paused and looked at the boy's face as he coughed some more until finally his breathing slowed and became regular. "I think he'll be fine," Tsunade said after Naruto started breathing normally. Jiraiya let go of Shizune and suggested, "Let's head back to town so everyone can rest." The next day Jiraiya began to explain everything about Naruto. To say Tsunade was shocked was an understatement. "That kid is a master of shadow skill." "That's what I'm told," Jiraiya answered. Then he became puzzled, "How do you know about it?" "I was just told by sensei before I was sent to find you." "You forget the first was my grandfather," Tsunade answered. "He told sensei about shadow skill and he also told me when I was a girl before he died." "Is shadow skill as powerful as everyone says it is?" Jiraiya asked. "Well, according to the legend the first told me," Tsunade said. "A master of shadow skill could destroy entire mountains, but it was just a legend." She then went silent, still after what we felt last night. Hinata entering the room cutting off Tsunade's sentence, "Naruto-kun is awake." Not waiting for a reply she disappeared back into Naruto's room. When the three joined Hinata in the room they saw her wrap Naruto in a hug, slightly crying onto his shoulder. After a few minutes Hinata pulled back and Naruto asked, "How long have I been out?" Tsunade stepped forward, "You've been out for little over a day. I admit I pleasantly surprised you woke up so fast." "Only a day?" Naruto asked. "I should have been out for at least 2 or 3. His statement caught everyone's attention. "What do you mean you should be out for 2 or 3 days?" Tsunade asked. "When I fight using a combination of the language of martial arts with the Kamui principle, I fight at an extremely high level. If it wasn't for my fast healing I would never be able to do them both at once. And considering the length of time I fought, my body should have shut itself down for at least 2 days." "Shut itself down?" Shizune asked. "One of the safeguards of shadow skill," Naruto explained. "All of the techniques require vast amounts of chakra and if the user uses too much in any technique the body automatically shuts down. It happens when the user of shadow skill has just enough to keep from dying. You can't override it even by inducing the 2 techniques. Of course after I disengage the techniques my body shuts down anyway in order to heal any damage that was done." "Why didn't you tell us this before, Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked. "I did, remember," Naruto replied. "I told you and Jiraiya as we traveled here. When you were feeling tired and I offered to carry you because we did not want to stop. I said, I'm fine, really I haven't begun to push myself and even if I did I would immediately fall unconscious so my body would recover. It's a safeguard in shadow skill." "Now that you mention it, I do remember you saying that," Hinata said. "I guess just seeing you like that made me panic. And I guess Tsunade-sama did not need to heal you after all. But thank you for worrying and healing me," Naruto said. He turned to Tsunade and saw she was extremely pissed. But apparently not at him because she and Shizune were facing Jiraiya. "That's why you held me back," Shizune accused. "There was no danger of Naruto dying at all." "Jiraiya," Tsunade said, cracking her knuckles, "you put me through that on purpose." She began to advance on Jiraiya. Now Tsunade, it did cure your hemophobia," Jiraiya said, backing up, turning paler by the second. "You should thank me." That was the wrong thing to say as Tsunade punched Jiraiya, sending him through the several walls and outside the hotel. Tsunade turned to a very confused Naruto and smiled, saying, "As soon as you've rested a little more, we'll all head back to Konoha." Okay," Naruto replied, having no clue what they were talking about. It was about a week and a half after Naruto, Hinata and Jiraiya left to search for Tsunade. The third Hokage sat looking over the report that the Jounin team he sent to investigate the alliance between Stone and Cloud Country sent back. What he read did not please him. In the report, he read that the alliance was orchestrated by the Raikage and Tsuchikage and that the alliance had appeared to be solely military in purpose. That meant that Konoha was to become a likely target from either or both shinobi villages. Scanning the report one more time he came across the part that confirmed that there was a third party involved. Apparently the idea of the alliance came from an outside source, though information on whom this outside source could be was still being investigated. Hence the reason he was only reading a report and not questioning the team, they were still in Cloud Country. Sitting back, the Hokage thought about the situation. "I hope my gamble with Tsunade pays off. I'm getting too old to be the Hokage anymore and Jiraiya already refused the position. If they can't convince her to return then I will have to start thinking of a new choice. Unfortunately I can't think anyone better suited than her right now." He sighed and looked at the pictures of previous Hokages. "Sensei, I hope your granddaughter will come." If she does, we will be in a better position in the war that I know will come. Then there is Orochimaru in the background on top of everything else. He then stood up and walked to the door. After he opened, he called to the administration Chunin, send a message to Kakashi and tell him that I wish to see him immediately. Then send a message to Sasuke and Neji saying that I want to meet them in 2 hours. Yes, Hokage-sama, the Chunin answered. Must want the three on a mission. 2 hours later, the first to show up was Sasuke and soon after him Neji. After the greeting, they were told to wait until the last member of the meeting arrived. Another 15 minutes later, Kakashi showed up. Turning to his former sensei, Sasuke commented, "You're slipping again, Kakashi-sensei, for 2 years you were at most 2 hours late. Now you are starting return to old habits." "Sorry," Kakashi apologized, "I was just—" "Never mind, Kakashi," the Hokage interrupted. "I am sending you three on a mission to Suna village. The report from the team that went to Cloud came back and the alliance is going through. So you are sending us to request aid in the event of war," Neji stated. "Correct," the Hokage replied. "They may not agree," Sasuke said. "They have been on the decline in the last few years and may not wish to risk a possibly costly war. That is why you are going," the Hokage said. "We must know if Suna is willing to help us or not. So this is a fact-finding mission as well as a diplomatic one," Kakashi concluded. "When do we leave?" "You leave within an hour." "What about my team?" Sasuke asked. "They will be allocated to other duties while you are away," the Hokage answered. The three bowed and left the room. Outside the Hokage's office, the three went their separate ways. But not before Neji called out, "Don't be late, copycat." Kakashi stopped and rubbed the back of his head. "I'll you at the main gate in an hour." Close to an hour later, the two teenagers met at the main gate. "If he's late like he normally is," Neji commented. "Relax, Hyuga," Sasuke spoke up. "Kakashi-sensei may have a bad track record at showing up on time for meetings, but for important missions like this one, he is always serious." 10 minutes later, only a few minutes after they were supposed to meet, Kakashi showed up. "Here," Kakashi threw the two a couple of odd kunes. "These are special kunes that my sensei gave to me. They have a special jutsu on them that alerts other members of the team to when and where it is thrown." "Why are you giving us these?" Neji asked. "In case we get separated," Kakashi replied. "I've got a bad feeling about this mission. In case we get separated, throw it and the others will track you down." "Why are you on edge so early?" Sasuke asked. "About a month or so ago, one of Suna's top shinobi disappeared from the village," Kakashi explained. "What's so strange about that?" Neji asked. "It was the shinobi that left is what has me troubled," Kakashi said. "It was rumored that the one that left was one of the Kazukige's children. And it is also rumored that the child hated his father and was quite powerful. The shinobi could become a threat to the mission by taking one of us and impersonating him in order to get to the Kazukige," Neji finished. "But is he that strong?" Neji knew his teammates were like him, genius shinobi and highly skilled. "He may be stronger than all three of us put together," Kakashi said bluntly, "so keep on your guard at all times." The two younger shinobi nodded and they headed out. After about 2 days of traveling, the three shinobi left the forests of Fire Country and entered the grasslands that would soon turn to the desert of Sand Country. Deciding it would best to take a break before they entered the harsh environment of sand, they stopped to make camp for the day. "You two knew Uzumaki before he disappeared, correct?" Neji asked. "Yes, he was on my genin team," Sasuke answered. "Worried about your cousin Neji-san?" Kakashi said with a playful glint in his eye. "Whether it affected the Hyuga progeny or not, there was no indication. I was merely wondering if he had the potential as a genin." "Naruto was the dope of our year," Sasuke answered. "But you of all people should know that isn't a test of a shinobi's potential." Neji nodded, remembering his misconception of people considered dead last at the academy, only to prove to be among the strongest ones later. "Well, before our last mission together," Sasuke continued, "he lived up to the placement. Even during the mission I had to save him. But after that Naruto started to show what he was capable of," Kakashi joined in. "I became trapped in a water prison, but due to Sasuke and Naruto's teamwork I was set free. It was Naruto's plan that allowed it to happen," Sasuke continued. "He used a combination henge and Kage Bushin to fool the missing nin we were fighting to leave him exposed to attack that would either wound him or set Kakashi-sensei free. And at the bridge Naruto was able to beat a hunter nin class shinobi on his own after Sasuke was incapacitated," Kakashi finished. Neji nodded. "I remember overhearing Sakura tell Lee about that during one of their training sessions. And after the fight, that's when he disappeared for 2 years, coming back at the same level as us. He may be even stronger," Kakashi said. The two younger shinobi fixed their gaze on him. "Remember that match was interrupted and judging from the training he described, we may only seen a glimpse of what he can do." After several minutes of silence that followed, Kakashi spoke again. "Back to the mission. Neither of you have been in a large desert before, so there are some things you should remember." Once again the attention was fixed on Kakashi. "First, we'll only be traveling at night, even to Suna Ninja the desert can be too harsh during the day. Second, when we rest drink plenty of water, dehydration is a greater risk than even chakra depletion. And third, don't take anything for granted, the sand of the desert can conceal an enemy better than anything else. The two nodded in confirmation and they all turned in for the night. It took the three Konoha shinobi another 3 days from when they stopped to reach Suna. True to Kakashi's word, the desert put more strain on them than any other environment they had encountered. As they approached the cliffs that surrounded Suna, they were met with several jounin. One in particular stuck out among the rest. He was wearing all black and had purple face paint. He stepped forward. "Identify yourselves." Ada Kakashi, Uchiha Sasuke and Hyuga Neji of Konoha, here to request a diplomatic meeting with the Kazekage, Kakashi said, showing the Suna shinobi their passports, as well as the diplomatic scroll the Hokage gave them. "Very well, follow me," the one with the face paint said. Not long after the three from Konoha entered the Kage office. They were ushered into a room when suddenly they became restrained by paralyzing jutsus inscribed on the wall within the room. "Now we'll see if you're who you say you are," a man wearing the Kazekage robe said. He performed several hand seals, and several more jutsus began to glow. The three began to feel chakra flow through them for several minutes until it suddenly stopped. The next thing the three knew, they were able to stand and the Kazekage stepped forward. "I apologize for the rough treatment, but there have some security breaks in the past week." "Completely understandable, Kazekage-sama," Kakashi answered. In truth, they were expecting more than just a paralyzing jutsu and some chakra passing through their bodies. The chakra that passed through did not even hurt, and after taking a quick glance, noting that the jutsus were very specific, the test was designed to detect a specific person, not just someone in disguise. "I am sure you are here to discuss the recent alliance between Cloud and Stone," the Kazekage said. Not waiting for answer, the Kazekage continued, "I can assure we already know of the possible threat and wish to share any information we have between our allies." "As do we, Kazekage-sama," Kakashi nodded. "Then let us discuss this in my office." The Kazekage then left the room, followed soon after by Kakashi and the others. As the meeting progressed, information about what each other knew about the alliance between Cloud and Stone was exchanged. It appeared that both had about the same amount of information, that was until the Kazekage mentioned, and to the rumors about a silent third party. "We have yet to confirm if those rumors were true, Kazekage-sama," Kakashi replied. "I see," the Kazekage nodded, "now on to the matter at hand. Can we count on Suna's support in the event of an attack?" Kakashi asked. "Konoha and Suna's treaty says that if one were to be attacked by more than one other shinobi village, then the other will come to the village's aid," the Kazekage answered. "If Konoha is attacked by Cloud and Stone, then we will come to your aid." "I am sure Hokage-sama will be glad to hear that," Kakashi bowed. "Kankuro?" the Kazekage called. The same jounin that met them at the entrance opened the door. "Yes, Kazekage-sama?" Kankuro asked. "Show our friends from Konoha a place where they may rest before they go back home," the Kazekage ordered. "Yes, Fath Kazekage-sama," Kankuro said. "Please follow me." The three from Konoha stood and followed him out of the Kazekage's office. Kankuro took them to a hotel close by. Once they were checked in and settled in their room, all three made a search with their enhanced eyes. Not surprising, they each found a jutsu that was used for spying in the room. Whether or not they were activated they could not tell, but not taking any chances, Kakashi began to use Sai language that was used exclusively by Konoha Anbu. "I don't think we can count on their support," Kakashi signed. "I agree," Neji returned, though not an Anbu like the other two were. They had given him lessons so that he could follow and contribute to the conversation on the way there. "Seems stress more than one treaty." True, Susuke signed. He made it clear that the treaty only applied to Incus more that one village attacked. "I do not believe we should trust the Kazekage," Kakashi added. "We should leave soon and get back to Konoha." "I one watch," Neji volunteered. The other two had no objections and got some sleep. The next day's evening, the three packed their supplies and were about to leave when Kankuro and a blonde female shinobi walked up. "Kazekage-sama sends his regards and wishes you a safe return," Kankuro said. "Tamari." The blonde female stepped forward. "He has also seen to give you this a gesture of goodwill." She handed Sasuke what appeared to be a small technique scroll and stepped back. "We thank you for your hospitality," Kakashi said, "but considering the recent events I believe we should make haste." The two Suna shinobi nodded and the three from Konoha left. After they were a safe distance from Suna, Kakashi said, "Let's check the scroll before we go too much further." "As soon as she gave it to me I checked it with my Sharingan," Sasuke said. "There appears to be a Jinjutsu placed on it. But the strange thing is, I don't get the feeling it's dangerous." "Open it," Kakashi ordered, "but be on guard just in case." Sasuke nodded and opened the scroll. As he did, Kakashi uncovered his Sharingan and Neji activated his Byakugan. To those without special eyes it would appear that the scroll contained two mid-level wind jutsus. But with his Sharingan activated, Sasuke was able to see the wording placed under the Jinjutsu. "It's a note," Sasuke said, puzzled. "What does it say?" Neji asked. Sasuke then read the note out loud. "To the Konoha shinobi, when you cross the desert be careful, because our brother, Gaara, is out there. He has the power to control the sand itself and is very dangerous to those he sees as enemies. He is currently targeting the Kazakiage for trying to kill him. And if you run into him, tell him we're sorry. Also know that not all Suna ninjas agree with the Kazakiage. After Sasuke finished reading the note, he asked, why would they warn us about this Gaara and about the Kazakiage? From the look on that Kankuro's face, I would say that he did not like Kazakiage very much, Neji said. If the note is at all accurate, then he would be one of the ones that would not agree with the Kazakiage. Either way, we should be on the lookout, Kakashi warned. I do not believe it would be wise for us to stop until we reach the fire border. The other two nodded in agreement and they ran towards home. 2 more days passed and they were about to leave the country of sand when several sharpened poles fell from the sky. Fortunately, the 3 Konoha ninjas were alert enough and avoided the attack. Just what I would expect from 3 legendary figures such as yourselves. A voice said to the right. Sasuke, Neji and Kakashi took a defensive position, activating their eyes, rain nins. How many? Kakashi asked. 4, Sasuke responded. 14, Neji answered. 3, Kakashi finished. Are you counting all that you can see, Neji? Yes, Neji answered. 17 in total, Sasuke concluded. Not a good matchup. The rain nins moved forward and surrounded the 3. The one who spoke earlier stepped forward. You're not going any further. We'll see, Kakashi answered. The 3 then began their attack. They were fighting Jounin level shinobi, so they knew they would be in for a rather difficult fight. Kakashi took the apparent leader and the 2 next to him. Sasuke moved toward the 4 off to the right. And Neji stayed in the center and let some of the remainder come to him. Kakashi pulled out a kunai and began move directly to the one that he sensed was the strongest. They have us outnumbered, so we need to end this quickly. He quickly formed hand seals, calling out, Kage kunai no jutsu. As he threw his kunai, it quickly multiplied into several dozen. The barrage of kunai spread, but unfortunately the leader was able to dodge and come away unscathed, and the ones around him only got minor wounds at best. The rain nins, knowing that they had the advantage, spread out to divide the targets. They were going to take their time letting the shinobi they were facing tire themselves out, then move in for the kill. The 3 that Kakashi attacked countered with several shurikens that he was able to dodge. One, anticipating his movement, moved in with a kunai and attempted to stab him. Unfortunately for him, Kakashi was able to predict his movements with a Sharingan and stepped into the rain nin's path, catching him off guard and stabbing him in the throat. Kakashi then jumped out of the way to avoid a kick from another enemy, but the leader attacked the side with his eye closed and was able to land the blow to his side. Another that joined their leader after he saw the one die, attacked by throwing a kunai, and though Kakashi was able to see it coming, he was not able to dodge completely, allowing the kunai to graze his left arm. This going to be harder than I thought, whispered Kakashi. Neji waited for the attack to come. With his 360 vision, he was able to keep track of everyone around him. He saw Kakashi take out one and another moved in to replace the one that fell. Good, one less for me to deal with, he thought. There were 6 within striking distance of Neji, the others were either staying back or busy fighting his teammates. Because he was best at fighting multiple opponents, he was not too concerned about the number of enemies he was facing. They're staying out too far for me to hit them with Katen. I'll have to wait for them to move in closer. 4 of the rain shinobi reached for their shuriken and kunai holders, while 2 others reached for their umbrellas on their backs. After the 6 drew their weapons, the 2 holding the umbrellas threw them into the air. After they reached about 3 meters overhead, they paused and began to spin, causing several sharpened poles to fall towards Neji. At the same time, the 4 others threw several kunes and shurikens at Neji. Seeing the actions the enemy took, Neji thought, damn, can't block or dodge them all. All I can do is, ending his thinking, he yelled Haki Shu Katen. His body spun, releasing waves of pure chakra, stopping the projectiles. When he stopped spinning, Neji looked at the enemy and noticed they were not surprised by the attack. In fact, it was almost like they anticipated it. Sasuke was busy dodging 4 opponents' attempts to hit him as he continually tried to move in close. Against multiple opponents, with his teammates so close, Sasuke decided that using close-range attacks would be best. Moving in with his Anbu sword drawn, he slashed at one of the shinobi he was fighting. The target had tried to move out of the way and was able to dodge the blade, but to his surprise, he still felt a cut, and when he looked down, he was indeed cut by the sword. Seeing the surprised reaction, Sasuke capitalized it and stabbed the enemy, critically wounding him. Thank you, Asuma, for teaching me to channel chakra into weapons, Sasuke thought. Unfortunately, that will not happen again so easily. They know what to look for now and will be more cautious. Just as Sasuke thought, the rain nins jumped back in order to avoid the sword. The 3 left then began to perform some jutsus, forcing Sasuke to sheath his sword to perform his own hand seals to counter. This was all a ruse, however, as one of the shinobi that were hanging back came up and attacked Sasuke from behind. Feeling a stab to the back, Sasuke quickly turned around with a kunai he drew and stabbed the one that got him in the arm. Their teamwork is impressive. Redrawing his sword, Sasuke charged in once again. The battle continued for nearly an hour. And thought the three from Konoha were able to kill or knock out 5 of their enemies, they had paid the price themselves. Neji had to use several katans and was running low of chakra. Sasuke sustained several blows from Kunes while trying to get in close with his sword. Kakashi suffered from many blows as he fought the leader and his partners. Eventually the three regrouped to rethink their strategy. They seem to know our moves, Neji said. But they have been studying us? Sasuke asked. Probably, Kakashi answered, but it's more to it than that. They know the strengths and weaknesses of our eyes. How could they have known that? Sasuke asked. Because I told them, a man stepped up from the edge. He moved closer and was holding what appeared to be a sword handle in his right hand. Aoi, Kakashi said, so the traitor finally shows himself after so many years. Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke called, who is this guy? He's a traitor from Konoha that stole the Raijin sword that belonged to the second Hokage, answered Kakashi. That's right, Aoi said, and with the information I passed to the Raikage about Konoha, we will finish all of you. What do we do? Neji asked. We're low on chakra, outnumbered and fighting someone that is familiar with our tactics. In this situation it would be best to try and make it to the border, Sasuke said. We need to punch a hole in the circle, Kakashi said. The one on the left is the weakest, Neji informed. Your left it is then, Kakashi said. The three made a break for the Neji's left in order to try and get away. In the process they had dropped and set off several flash bangs to confuse the enemy ninjas. They approached the one Neji pointed out and with a punch from Kakashi and Sasuke they were able to break out of the circle. After recovering from the brief disorientation from the flash bangs, Aoi saw that they knocked out a person off to his right and were making a running from them. No, you don't. Aoi activated the Raijin and charged the three with the other range shinobi behind him. Ahead of them Neji still had the Byakugan activated and called out duck. As several kunai and shuriken were thrown at them. With Neji's advanced warning they were able to avoid the attack, but that diversion was just what the rain nins needed to catch up to the leaf nins. Never thought you would run from a fight, Kakashi, Aoi taunted. Kakashi did not respond except to take a defensive posture. Kill them before they try anything else. The rain shinobi were going to attack when suddenly they all were stopped because their feet became immobile. What? Everyone looked down at the rain nin's feet and noticed sand firmly holding them in place. The desert is mine, came a monotone voice. Those that could move turned to see a teenager about Sasuke and Neji's age with a gourd on his back emerge from the sand. You have set foot on my sand without permission one too many times, now you will die. The rain nin struggled against the sand as it slowly crawled up their legs. Seeing an opening Kakashi ordered. Take them. Not hesitating for a second Neji and Sasuke attacked the rain nins that were closest along with Kakashi. The ones farther back were not as lucky to be killed by the Konoha shinobi as the sand had already covered their heads. Sabaku Susu, the newcomer said as the sand crushed the remaining rain nins. Leave my desert before I kill you too. He started to walk away when Sasuke spoke up. Irgara, right? Sasuke asked. He stopped and the sand began to swirl around him. How do you know my name? We received a letter from Kankuro and Temari telling us about you, Sasuke told. The mention of the names caused the sand to stop briefly. What did they say? Gaara asked. All the letter said was to tell you they were sorry, Sasuke answered. Aramade gave no response but called the sand back into the gourd, leave. He then disappeared in a swirl of sand. We should head back to Konoha, Kakashi suggested. Not without this, Neji said bending down to pick up the Raijin. I'm sure Hokage-sama will want this back. The others did not say anything and continued their trek back home. Kakashi, with his two teenage partners, were standing before the third Hokage telling him their report about their mission to the village of Suna. Once we arrived at Suna we were taken into a room and placed under a paralyzing jutsu, Kakashi reported. For once he was standing at attention instead of his normal relaxed posture. Then the Kazekage entered the room and performed some kind of scanning jutsu. Apparently they have been having leaks in their security, however, the scanning jutsu seemed to be designed for a specific person. Once the Kazekage was satisfied with our identities, he took us to his office and we discussed aid from one village to another. After the meeting we rested for the day and left the village. On our way back we encountered Rain Nin including the traitor Aoi that stole the Raijin. We were able to defeat the Rain Nin and recover the Raijin with the help of an apparent missing Nin from Suna. At this point Neji approached the Hokage and presented the recovered Raijin. The Hokage inspected it, confirming it was his predecessor's weapon. And what was discussed during the meeting with the Kazekage? The Hokage asked. During the meeting we exchanged information about the alliance and he asked about the rumors of a third party, Kakashi answered. I told him that we have not confirmed if there was a third party. Very well, the Hokage said. And what of assistance in case of an attack? I believe that we may only count on aid from Suna if both Cloud and Stone attack, Kakashi said. He seemed to stress the part of the treaty that included that one village would come to help the other if more than one enemy village attacked. The Hokage nodded in understanding. I believe that it should also be noted that it appears that not all Suna shinobi agree with the Kazekage. Explain. Just before we left we were slipped a message from 2 Suna shinobi, Kakashi replied. It was mostly a warning to avoid a missing nin named Gaara of the desert. But it also said that there were Suna shinobi that disagreed with the Kazekage. It should also be noted that Gaara of the desert was the one who aided us against the Rain Nin. And I suspect that he is son of the Kazekage that went missing not too long ago, and that the 2 whom handed us the message were also the Kazekage's children. Thank you Kakashi, the Hokage said. You 3 are off for the next 3 days, then you will return to active duties. Yes, Hokage-sama. The 3 saluted and exited the office. The Hokage sat back and thought, I was afraid of this, Suna has not been very cooperative in the past few years. But now that we know not to rely on Suna's aid, we can plan around that. All that's left is for Jiraiya and his team to return. Once the 3 were outside they split off from one another. Sasuke was walking back to his apartment when he felt someone following him. He concentrated for a moment and then called out, you're getting better Sakura, you were able to get within 6 meters this time. He turned and smiled at his pink-haired former teammate. Still needs work though, Sakura said returning the smile. Care to join me for something to eat? Okay, Sasuke agreed. Though the only ones who knew were those closest to them, Sasuke always hated treating Sakura like she never existed when they were younger. So now every time she asked him out he could never refuse. That and the fact that the 2 had been officially going out since about 6 months before Naruto returned. Aya knelt before her master visibly shaking from the report she was giving to Orochimaru. She told of the events that started with her and her former teammates, planning to use a Genjutsu to lure the Hyuga and Shadow Claw away from the others in order to capture them. She then explained how from there everything went from bad to worse. She told Orochimaru of the strange fighting style that Shadow Claw used and how it seemed to be based in Taijutsu but incorporated ninjutsu in the techniques without the use of head seals. She went on further to explain the mysterious chant he called the language of martial arts to dramatically increase his chakra output and strength, then combined it with what Shadow Claw called Kamui principle to increase his speed to the point that, even with their level 2 curse seals, they were unable to even see most of his moves. And after that the Saiyans and the other 2 Konoha shinobi showed up, she finished. And then you retreated, Orochimaru said calmly. Even though his voice did not show it, he was rather angry to hear that 3 of his Sound 4 were defeated and now dead. Aya nodded, yes, but I was only able to escape because they let me. Leave. Orochimaru ordered, I will deal with your cowardice later. Aya did not even respond and just quickly left his sight. Once she was gone he leaned back and thought. Though he was angry at loss, he was also intrigued. Whatever this fighting style was, it was extremely powerful, meaning that he wanted to know even more about it. Orochimaru-sama, Kabuto's voice addressed him. I have heard from our spies in Konoha. And they say that the village is concentrating on Cloud and Stone and have not been paying much attention to our activities. Orochimaru stayed silent as Kabuto spoke. But with the recent events that may change as soon as your former teammates return. What of Sasuke-kun? Orochimaru asked. By the time the message was sent he had just arrived in the village and details of his mission are still unknown, Kabuto answered. I have also retained some more information on whom Shadow Claw really is. Orochimaru glanced at Kabuto, indicating his wish for him to continue. It turns out that he is actually Uzumaki Naruto. So the Kyuubi brat is alive, Orochimaru nodded. Maybe the demon taught him how to fight and the jutsus he uses are demonic in origin. That is unknown to our spies, Kabuto informed, he apparently only told those close to him about his time away. He then paused for a moment, then asked, do you wish the spies to watch him more closely? Orochimaru thought for a moment, yes and tell them to be on the lookout for the organization. Him being alive will reach them soon and they will want him. As you wish Orochimaru-sama, Kabuto said disappearing from the room. About a day's travel away from Konoha, Naruto and his group stopped to rest for the night. With the possibility of war looming they were in a rush to get back to the village and traveled almost non-stop. When they finally reached Konoha's territory they decided to stop for a rest. It had taken them a week to get this far and everyone needed the break. One more day and we'll be back in Konoha, Naruto said. Yes and I for one can't wait to get back, Shizune commented. Why is that Shizune-san? Hinata asked. Couple of reasons actually, Shizune answered. 1, I haven't been there in a while and 2, I could use a bath. We haven't stopped once at a town and washed up. Everyone around the campsite nodded a little in agreement, they could all use some cleaning up. I know we're only a day away, Jiraiya began. But if you can't wait there's a small stream about 50 meters or so that way, he indicated behind Naruto. And just how do you know that there's a stream that flows with such accuracy? Tsunade asked, though she had a good idea. Well it's actually a place for good research, Jiraiya smiled. Slapping his forehead Naruto sighed, should have guessed that. Well, in either case I can't wait, Tsunade announced. I'm going, girls, if you wish to join me you are welcome to come. She then directed a hard gaze at Jiraiya, and you don't even think about following us. He won't, Naruto said evenly. The two other female ninjas nodded in agreement with Tsunade and followed her. Jiraiya watched them go but made no move. Don't even think about it, Naruto ordered. I wasn't, Jiraiya said. Naruto gave him a look that clearly said he did not believe the Toad Summoner. Jiraiya then sighed. Normally, traveling with three lovely ladies he would have loads of inspiration, even at the risk of Tsunade's wrath. But with the combined punishments of Naruto and Tsunade, even he would not press his luck. Once they were out of sight of camp, Tsunade glanced at Hinata and asked, so just how close are you to Naruto? It was clear to anyone that Hinata liked him, and it was equally clear that Naruto's feelings were growing steadily for her with each passing day. We're close friends, Hinata said blushing. But she trailed off as her face turned even redder. But you want it to be more, Tsunade smiled when Hinata nodded weakly. In the short time that she knew the two teenagers she had become rather attached to them. And it had little to do with the fact that she seemed to win at cards when Naruto was around, they had played at their brief stops to lose some tension from travel. It was more due to the fact that she saw herself in Hinata and her brother and, on different occasions, former fiancé in Naruto. Well, I wouldn't be too worried, Shizune joined in, it's clear that he likes you. She then laughed a little, it's kind of cute the way he continually threatens Jiraiya whenever he looks at you. Tsunade laughed as well, I thought I was the only one who could make Jiraiya sweat like that. He must take the threats very seriously. When the three girls got back they could detect that Naruto's glare still on Jiraiya. He did not remove it until Hinata came up and touched him on the shoulder. Welcome back Hinata-chan, he greeted, feeling better. Yes, Naruto-kun, she answered. She then sat down next to him and got comfortable by leaning against him. She had decided after Tsunade and Shizune told her that Naruto likes her, she would be a bit more active, not wanting to lose another chance. Naruto for his part stiffened slightly when Hinata leaned against him, but soon relaxed when he glanced at her and saw a smile of her face. After a few minutes of silence Tsunade spoke up, Hinata, she said, getting the teenager's attention, why did you decide to become a medical nin? Hinata sat up to answer, when I thought Naruto died, she glanced at him with only the briefest of a sad expression, I wanted to do everything in my power to save my friends. And after I became a Chunin I dedicated myself to the medical field. Well, I must say you choose wisely in becoming a medic, Shizune said, that healing cream of yours is excellent work. When we get back I can take you under me and give you some pointers if you'd like, Tsunade added. I am also impressed with your skill. It would be an honor, Tsunade-sama, said a stunned Hinata. What impresses me is her fighting style, Jiraiya commented, combining the Hyuga's gentle fist with medical taijutsu has produced a very effective fighting style. Yeah, Naruto agreed, you really helped me back there with the sound ninjas. Speaking of which, Tsunade said, it appears that Orochimaru has taken an interest in your shadow skill. He's a fanatic when it comes to learning unknown powers. You don't have to worry about that, Naruto said, there is only one way for him to learn shadow skill, and that is for me to teach him. Something I will never do. But if he captures you, Jiraiya added, he could learn from by dissecting your body. He may be able to learn how I gather chakra, Naruto admitted, but he will never know the techniques. The master showing the men extensive practice from the apprentice can only pass them. And even then he would never learn the final secrets. What about the one that taught you? Jiraiya asks. There is no one that can harm darkness, Naruto scoffed. I don't think he even exists in this reality. I agree with Naruto, Tsunade said. From the stories the first Hokage told me, darkness only shows himself to those he wishes. Orochimaru wouldn't even be able to find him. Jiraiya nodded in acceptance and let the issue drop. After about another hour of light conversation everyone decided to turn in for the night. The next day the 5 shinobi came into view of the main gates and were greeted by 3 Chunins. When the Chunins recognized Jiraiya and Tsunade they immediately sent word to the Hokage and leapt down to greet 2 of the legendary 3. Welcome back to Konoha, Tsunade-sama, Jiraiya-sama. One then turned to the other 3, and to you as well, Hyuga-san and Shizune-san. His lack of greeting to Naruto would have been hard to miss even for a deaf person. I believe you missed a person, a voice from behind the Chunin called. Everyone turned to see a young pink-haired Jounin standing inside the interior of the wall. It's alright Sakura-chan, Naruto said, I really don't think we have time for pleasantries. Sakura nodded then said, the Hokage is currently meeting with the village elders and will speak with you when he is done. Good, Tsunade said with sweet voice, I'm going to have to insist that some of the gate guards be demoted for not being very observant. She spoke loud enough for the Chunin who greeted them to hear. I agree, Jiraiya spoke, I think I'll recommend that too, they can't seem to count either, and that makes them too stupid to be Chunins. In fact I'll recommend that they be dismissed as shinobi entirely. But enough of this, we should be moving. Behind them the Chunin had turned completely pale from hearing the Sanin's conversation. One of the other guards walked up to him saying, looks like they seem to like him and you just made a big mistake by insulting him. The now even paler Chunin did not respond as the other guard walked away and returned to duty. After the two Sanins arrived, it did not take long for word to spread among the population of the village of their return. As a result, an impromptu calibration occurred. The celebration, because of lack of preparation time, mostly consisted of small street parties around various parts of the village. Many of the citizens felt relieved from the threat the war on the horizon. With two of the legendary Sanins in the village, many felt confident in the village's safety. The small parties went away after the third day, but what remained in its place was a more relaxed atmosphere for the civilians that had not been in place for several weeks. The shinobi, however, were still on guard. Many believed that the appearance of the Sanins showed that the village was in for a hard time very soon. But the shinobi were also joyous to have them back, well, except a couple of gate guards that were demoted or dismissed the day after they arrived. Of all the people in the village, none were more relieved for the Sanins' return than the Hokage himself. He was glad for the return of his former pupils and the support they brought. He was dismayed when he heard of attack on Naruto and Hinata by the Sound Shinobi. So the attack confirms your suspicions about Orochimaru being the head of Sound. Yeah, Jiraiya stated, I've had my subsections for some time now, but I had nothing concrete. That is until I saw the curse seal on the Sound Ninja that attacked us not long after we left. And he's also interested in learning Naruto's shadow skill, Tsunade added. He's probably interested in the style because he has never heard of anything like it before, the Hokage commented. Naruto may have caught his eye, but I still believe that he is interested in getting the Sharingan, Jiraiya said. And because he can't get one from Itachi, that only leaves one person left. Uchiha Sasuke, Tsunade added, we should tell both of those kids to be on guard. They can take care of themselves, but Orochimaru might take the war as an opportunity to take them. Agreed, the Hokage nodded, I'll have Kakashi tell them after the meeting. Now on to the real matter at hand. He paused looking directly at Tsunade, I have decided that you should be the fifth Hokage. Tsunade just nodded, Jiraiya told me as much. And I have to say you played a rather dirty trick to get me to come back. But I do accept the position. I know, the third Hokage said with some regret in his voice, but it needed to be done. Now, we'll announce the decision to the village after you have settled in again. Then we will prepare for the ceremony after that. Are you sure it's wise to have a public ceremony? Jiraiya asked. Cloud and Stone will most likely know that you have returned, the Hokage replied, the ceremony is to show that we now have a strong leader ready to guide our forces. So it's as much for outsiders as it is for the village, Jiraiya mused. Correct, the Hokage confirmed. Well then I guess I should go relax as much as I can, Tsunade said standing, because it doesn't look like I will be able to in the near future. She made her way to the door, and just as she was about to exit she turned and said, the first thing I do after I officially become the fifth is to upgrade the hospital, we'll need it. She then looked directly at Jiraiya, and the second thing I do is make peeping in on the women's bath a capital crime. After she left the room Jiraiya turned to ask, she can't do that, right? Let me just say that you should get yourself a more powerful telescope so you can be farther away before the ceremony, the Hokage answered. Naruto was at the training grounds he used before when he was preparing for his evaluation. He was busy kicking a tree stump that had an indentation of about 6 inches into the wood. He stopped mid-kick then he asked, something you need Kakashi-sensei? Kakashi made his appearance behind Naruto commenting, I guess I should stop trying to sneak up on you. He spoke with an easily recognizable smile in his voice. Actually I'm here to give you a message from the Hokage. What is it? Another mission? Naruto asked, dropping his leg and turning to Kakashi. No, Kakashi answered seriously, it does not take a genius to see that war is coming. Naruto nodded agreeing with Kakashi, and you should know that there are people that find you unique and there are always people who want unique people. If you're talking about Orochimaru, Naruto interrupted, I already know, Iro-Sanin and Tsunade Baba warned me about him. Good, Kakashi responded, but you should still be on your guard, there may be others after you, word of your abilities is already spreading, and a war is the perfect distraction for someone to come after you. I'll be careful Kakashi-sensei, Naruto said returning to his training. Kakashi looked at the sky to determine the time. Sasuke is still on patrol, he thought. I guess I'll tell him later. Kakashi knew that only a direct summons from the Hokage should be the only reason to interrupt an Anbu's patrol. He knew from personal experience from his time in the Anbu ranks. After Kakashi left, Naruto continued with his training with a doubled effort. If a war was coming he knew that he would have to be as strong as possible for the fights to come. After about 3 hours he took a break from his training and looked at the sky. He noticed that the sun was about halfway over the western portion of the sky. Damn, I almost forgot I asked Hinata-chan out. He thought aloud. Ever since the mission to find Tsunade, Naruto knew that he really liked her. And decided that once they got back to the village he would ask her out. It took him over 2 days to finally get the courage to ask her out. And then I nearly forget. I better go get cleaned up for tonight. On his way back to his apartment he became lost in thought. He was having trouble deciding what he should do. After all, not having any experience in this field, Naruto had no idea what to expect. He was so lost in thought that whenever he bumped into someone he did not even mumble an apology. So when he turned the corner he bumped into someone and continued past. That is until he heard them call his name, "Hey Naruto." He stopped at his name and turned to see Sakura picking herself up off the ground. "What are you thinking, bumping into me and not even apologizing nor helping me up?" "Oh, I'm sorry, Sakura-chan," Naruto said. "I just have a lot on my mind and I'm afraid I didn't even notice you." He started to turn around when Sakura's voice stopped him again. "Thinking about Hinata," Sakura stated. Naruto jerked around, seeing the smile on his former teammate's face. "How did you know?" "You were mumbling about where to take her tonight." Sakura smiled broadened. "So you finally asked her out?" Naruto, completely embarrassed, nodded his head. "Took you long enough. She's had a thing for you ever since the academy." Naruto nodded again in confirmation. He knew, though, only because Hinata had told him not long after he returned to the village. "So what's the problem?" "Well, I'm not too sure what I should do," Naruto admitted. "Well, I can suggest one thing," Sakura said. "What?" Naruto asked. "Don't take her out for ramen," Sakura answered. "Why not?" Naruto asked, confused. "Because even though you like it," Sakura began, "the date isn't about the guy doing what he wants, it's about pleasing the girl," Sakura informed him. "You should take her to a place that she would prefer." "Yeah, I guess that's right," Naruto said, "but the truth is, I really don't know what she likes." Naruto sighed, then looked up and asked, "Do you know what kind of things she likes?" "I know she likes this restaurant near the administration office," Sakura answered. "I've eaten there as well, they have some good food, and the place is rather intimate as well." She smiled, briefly remembering one of her dates with Sasuke. "I also know she likes spending time outside near the forest as well, I heard her say something about liking to watch fireflies." Naruto thought for a moment, then a large smile formed. "Thanks, Sakura-chan, I know exactly what to do now." Naruto then turned and walked the short distance to his apartment. "Finally asked her out, I see," Sasuke's voice spoke from behind Sakura. "About time he did. You're one to talk, Sasuke," Kakashi said as he joined them. "How long did it take for you to ask Sakura out?" Sasuke frowned at Kakashi, but Kakashi ignored it. "I've got a message from the Hokage." After Naruto went home, got cleaned up and changed, he made his way toward the Hyuga estate. He had been here before on a few occasions, but never went inside the gates. When he approached two Hyugas opening the gates, Uzumaki-sama, the one on the left, greeted him. "Hyuga-sama wishes to see you. Please follow me." Naruto nodded, silently following his guide. But in his thoughts he was wondering, why did he address me as Sama? After a few minutes Naruto was led to the largest house on the grounds. Naruto had to resist gazing around him in astonishment, he had never seen such refinement and care to grounds than inside the Hyuga estate. Once they entered the largest house, Naruto's guide knocked on a door and opened it. "Hyuga-sama, Uzumaki-sama has arrived." He then stepped aside and Naruto stepped forward. "Very well," Hiashi responded, "leave us." The Hyuga that brought Naruto first bowed to Hiashi, then to Naruto and left. "Sit," Hiashi calmly ordered, gesturing to a position across from him. Naruto complied and sat down in the lotus position facing the Hyuga head. Naruto was nervous sitting in front of Hiashi, but did everything in his power not to show it. He waited patiently for the Hyuga to speak. Unfortunately for Naruto, Hiashi made no move nor spoke for several minutes. During the entire time he was evaluating Naruto, when he met him a number of weeks ago, Hiashi was somewhat surprised by his actions. Now he was going to get a better idea on what kind of person Naruto was. After the long quiet, Hiashi finally spoke. "Hinata will be ready soon, you may wait for her in the common room." Naruto blinked for a moment. "Yes sir." He stood, bowed and exited the room. When Naruto left he was greeted by a female Hyuga that showed him the common room. Once he arrived he thought about the meeting with Hinata's father. He was not expecting what had happened. In fact, he was expecting an entire interrogation from the man. Unknown to Naruto, the silent observations that Hiashi made told him more about the kind of person Naruto was than any conversation they could have had. Like everyone in Konoha, Hiashi knew about Naruto's loud and annoying personality when he was younger. And that kind of person was totally unworthy of his daughter in Hiashi's eyes. The young man that sat before him earlier was far from the previous image he had of Naruto. The Naruto, although nervous, showed patience and respect just by sitting and waiting for Hiashi to speak. The Hyuga had already heard of Naruto's strength from the reports he had access to, because he was part of the village council. And because of his position he was also one of the few people that were told that the Kyuubi was no longer sealed inside Naruto. This meant that he had no worries about the beast breaking loose either. All this combined for him to have a rather high impression of the young Jounin. Back with Naruto he had been left alone for a few moments when he felt a set of eyes upon him. Glancing around the room with his eyes, he found the source of sensation coming from his right. Recognizing the feeling he asked, "How are you, Hanabi-chan?" Hinata's little sister did not answer as she entered the room, but instead asked a question of her own, "So are you my sister's boyfriend now?" "I guess I am," Naruto answered with nervous smile. "Well, you better not hurt her," Hanabi stated. Before Naruto could answer, he felt another presence enter the room. The presence that came in had become very familiar to him over the last couple of weeks. It belonged to Hinata. Turning to greet his date, he was stunned by her appearance. Hinata was wearing black silk long-sleeved shirt that ended just below her waist, that reaching just over her dress. Her dress was also made of black silk that reached to just above her ankles. A pair of dark blue shoes and a matching belt, which was positioned at her waist just above where her shirt ended, finished the outfit off. And though the outfit was loose on her, it still accented her figure nicely. The only word that Naruto could come up with was, goddess. For to him it looked as though the girl in front of him came directly from the heavens. Hinata, hearing Naruto's comment, blushed deeply. "Thank you, Naruto-kun." Hinata's voice brought Naruto out of his trance and he suggested, "Shall we go?" Hinata nodded and joined him, and the two left the room. Hanabi, who had been forgotten, watched as they left the room, smiling at their reactions. The two shinobi walked the distance to the restaurant Sakura had mentioned. Hinata was surprised that Naruto knew about it because she had never seen him there before, but made no mention of it. When the two entered, they saw that it was not very crowded and were seated momentarily. Once they were seated, Naruto took a moment to glance at the surroundings. Sakura was correct, the place had an aura that just seemed to bring you closer to person you were with. "I'll have to thank her for the advice ladder." After his observation, the two ordered their meals. Hinata ordered the sashimi, and Naruto said he would have the same. He figured since he could not have ramen, he would have whatever Hinata thought was good. The meal came not long after they ordered and the two ate in silence, simply enjoying the other's company. After the meal, the conversation was light, both talking about old times at the academy and laughing at some of Naruto's pranks. After the bill was paid, they left the restaurant. Once outside, Hinata spoke. "Thank you for tonight, Naruto-kun." "You're welcome, Hinata-chan," Naruto said. "But it's not over yet. There's something I'd like to show you." Curious, Hinata asked, "What is it, Naruto-kun?" "You'll see," Naruto smiled, "it's actually not far." He then led her away for the restaurant and into a small forested area nearby. Not wanting to ruin her clothes, Naruto picked Hinata up, saying, "Hold on, it's just a little ways into the woods." Hinata complied by wrapping her arms around his neck. After about 5 minutes, Naruto, still carrying Hinata in his arms, entered a small clearing near a small pond. The silver light of moon reflected off the water, that combining with several flickering lights from several fireflies, left the clearing with an ethereal setting. "This is beautiful," Hinata said, almost completely stunned. "You should see it on a full moon," Naruto commented, carrying her over to a fallen tree. "When the moon is full, you can see almost perfect reflections on the surface of the pond, with the fireflies that are always here. It looks like there's dance going on between the stars and lights from them." Hinata looked at Naruto as he stared at the pond for several moments, noticing the sad look in his eyes. Finally, she had to ask, "How did you know about this place, Naruto-kun?" Naruto did not respond at first, but soon in a low voice he responded, "I found this place once when I was kid. It became the place I would come when the villagers got to me. It was where I could be alone when I was upset. It always calmed me down." She could not think anything to say, so Hinata's only response was to pull Naruto into a loving embrace and rest her head on his shoulder. Naruto in response leaned his head lightly against hers and wrapped his arms around her shoulder. They then silently watched the pond and fireflies dance with the stars. After about an hour, Naruto carried Hinata out of the clearing and took her back home. Outside the gates to the Hyuga compound, Naruto decided to act on an impulse and brought Hinata closer and gently kissed her on the lips. Only a few seconds passed and the two separated. After looking him in the eyes with nothing but joy, Hinata turned and entered her family's estate. On opposite sides of the walls, the two were both thinking the same thing. "No matter what, I'll never forget this night." The next day, Naruto was awakened earlier than normal by a loud pounding on his door. When he went to answer it, he was greeted by Sasuke. "Report to the Hokage's office. He wants all Jounin and Anbu there, and that means you too." "Why?" Naruto asked in level tone. He had a feeling he would not like the answer. "The team that was sent to Cloud returned last night." Naruto nodded and went to get dressed. He was right, he did not like the answer. Upon arriving with Sasuke, Naruto noticed that the two Sannin stood behind the Hokage with the investigation team in front and several Jounin and Anbu lined up facing them. Taking their positions, they stood at attention waiting for the Hokage to begin. "Kurenai, Genma and Aoba have returned. They came back to inform us that Cloud is gathering their forces and will be here within the week. We must begin preparations for war." Naruto stood patiently as the three Jounins that were sent to Cloud informed the assembled group of the forces they were to expect. "From the information that we have obtained, the attack planned on the village will take place within the week," Kurenai said. "We were unable to determine which country will be attacking first. So that means we will have to divide our forces to cover a two-front war," a Jounin spoke up. That is a fair conclusion, the Hokage said. Please continue, Kurenai. Yes, Hokage-sama, Kurenai complied. But we suspect that they will attack only as one village. Why is that? Another Jounin asked. Because they are aware of the treaty between Konoha and Suna, Jiraiya answered. They know that the treaty states that the village will only come to the aid the other if more than one village attacks either Konoha or Suna. So we suspect that they will attack in waves, Genma joined in. First, one village will attack then retreat and the other will follow up. It's a way to keep the pressure on us and still attack with only one village at a time, thus keeping Suna out of the fight. As stated earlier, we will have to divide our forces to counter-attack on two fronts, the Hokage took over. Jiraiya and Tsunade will each take command of forces at each border. The forces will be made mostly of Chunin and Anbu, there will also be a few Jounins assigned as the field commanders. Most of the Jounins will remain in the village as backup in case there is a diversion and the enemy attack the village directly as their first target. As a result of the formations, each of the three areas will have runner squads. The squad's sole purpose will be to send messages to the other forces and will be the most important of the duties. If no messages can be sent between the forces, then one can be easily become isolated and destroyed. The Hokage stopped to gauge the reactions of those present. Every person in the room had face like stone. That is all for now, report to the administration office to receive your individual assignments. Yes, Hokage-sama. Came a chorus reply from the assembled shinobi. As everyone filled out, Sasuke and Sakura soon joined up with Naruto. So what assignment do you think you two will get? Naruto asked. I'll be at the front lines, Sasuke said. They said that the front lines will be made up of mostly Anbu and Chunin, that combined with my Sharingan, it will be the most logical choice. I'm pretty sure I'll be left in the village, Sakura stated. I may be a Jounin, but I don't have much experience leading squads. The real wild card out of us is you, Naruto, Sasuke said. You're powerful enough to be at the front lines, but have no experience leading. You're fast enough and have the stamina required to be a runner, but runners will require trust in your teammates, Naruto finished. I'm still not all that trusted by a lot of people. Naruto then thought for a minute. I wonder what assignment Hinata-chan will get. They'll probably have her up at the front lines, Kakashi answered as he joined his former students. She has experience with battlefield medicine and is quite the capable fighter. What about you, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked. Where do you think you'll be placed? Hard to say, Kakashi answered. But I'm guessing either a runner or be at the village. They'll still want Jounins with experience back at the village. Kakashi then stopped, forcing the other three to stop as well. No matter what assignment you get, always be on alert. Especially you two, he pointed at Sasuke and Naruto, you both know that you're being targeted by some powerful people. And one more thing, from experience I know that losses are inevitable. That means you will probably see some of your friends and comrades die. The battlefield is no place to mourn the lost, there will be plenty of time afterwards, so don't get distracted. The three gave an affirmative nod and continued on their path to administration office. Naruto stepped out of the administration office with his assignment in hand. He was one of the last to receive his orders among the Jounins. Sakura and Sasuke got the assignments they figured they would. Sakura would stay in the village as a gate guard. Sasuke would be at the front line near the border with Stone under Jiraiya's command. Kakashi did not get what he assumed. It turned out that he would be at the front lines under Tsunade's command. Naruto was about to look at his assignment once again when a voice stopped him. Naruto-kun, did you get your assignment? Naruto turned to the voice and noticed it came from Hinata. When he saw her, he immediately smiled. Yeah, turns out I'm going to be a runner stationed here in the village. Apparently they want people with a lot of speed, power and stamina as the village runners increase the need to break through a siege line around the village. I think it was a wise decision, Naruto-kun, Hinata said. Thanks, Hinata-chan, Naruto replied. So what about you, do you know where you'll be going? Not yet, Hinata answered. I should get my assignment soon though. No sooner than she finished her sentence her name was called. I'll wait here for you, Naruto said. Hinata nodded and went up to the assignment desk. It only took a few minutes for her to return. When she got back, Naruto asked, well, I'll be at the front lines under Jiraiya-sama, Hinata said, reading her assignment paper. That means you'll be with Sasuke, Naruto said. Hinata only nodded in response. Silently, Naruto was glad she would be on the same force with Sasuke. He knew that his friend would do everything in his power to protect her. Why don't we go get something to eat and relax, tomorrow they'll shipping everyone out. Okay, Naruto-kun, Hinata replied, and the new couple went off. The next day, Naruto stood at the main gates with Sakura by his side. They were there to see their friends and loved ones off, like many of those staying in the village. Tsunade's forces left just before, and to the surprise of many, Naruto and her gave each other their best wishes and promised to come back alive. It was now time for Jiraiya's force to leave, and Sasuke and Hinata greeted Naruto and Sakura. After the two pairs said their goodbyes, Naruto went off to the side with his best friend. Don't worry, Dobe, I'll take care of Hinata. Thanks, bastard, Naruto replied, and the same goes to you, I'll take care of Sakura-chan. Sasuke nodded in thanks and left to rejoin his team. Not far away, Sakura and Hinata had made similar promises as well. When Naruto came to Sakura's side, he got one last look at Hinata before she left with the rest of the medics that were going. "I hope they'll be alright," Sakura commented as she watched the last group leave. "I wouldn't worry, Sakura-chan," Naruto assured. "They're both very strong and can take care of themselves." Sakura turned and smiled at Naruto's assurance. Inside of Naruto's mind, however, he could not help but have a bad feeling about the next week. After the gates closed, everyone began to disperse, including the two friends. "I should go begin my patrols," Sakura said. "And I should meet up with my runner squad," Naruto said. Not long after Naruto left Sakura, he went to spot where he was to meet his team. As he approached, he hoped that he would be with people that he could work well with. The first person he came upon had their back turned to him. He appeared to be a Chunin with his hair tied in a ponytail at the back. "Guess you're the first one here," Naruto commented. The Chunin turned around and a recognizable horizontal scar across his face appeared. Naruto smiled. "Iruka-sensei, guess that means we'll be on the same team." "Looks like, Naruto," Iruka greeted in return. "But I thought all the Chunins were to be at the front," Naruto said. "Most of the Chunins, yes," Iruka confirmed. "But a few were selected to remain in the village or be runners. I was selected to do both." "But why?" Naruto asked. Iruka was about to answer when a deep voice spoke for him, "Because he is quick and very good at henge." The two shinobi turned to the voice to see two more people approach. Both were surprised to a middle-aged man with pale eyes and long dark hair, along with a boy about Naruto's age wearing a green bodysuit. "Hi, Uga-sama?" Iruka asked with surprise. "I thought one such as yourself would be part of the village defense force, not a runner." "I was selected because of my experience in the Anbu squads," came Hiashi's answer. "Now down to business. I'm sure you know the Rock Lee here," he said, pointing to the teenager to his right. "I will explain our duty and chain of command. We will be responsible for the messages that will be sent to Tsunade-sama's forces. We were chosen for our individual skills. Lee for his speed and power, Iruka for his henjinkus of stealth, Naruto also for his speed and power, and me for my leadership." He glanced at his three new subordinates and saw they nodded in agreement. "Now Naruto, although you are ranked as a Jounin, Iruka will be the second in command. The reason for this is because he was much more experienced than you. You will be on equal level with Lee unless both Iruka and myself are incapacitated. Is that understood?" "Yes sir," all three answered. "Our duties will not begin until Tsunade's forces are in position," Hiashi informed. "And that will not happen till at least tomorrow. So until then you are on your own time. But I suggest you get some rest while you can. And remember to stay in contact with each other. I'll be with the Hokage at his office in case word comes in." With that he turned and walked off without another word. "Naruto, I hope you don't take it the wrong way that I'm your commander," Iruka said. "Don't worry about Iruka-sensei," Naruto waved it off. "He's got a point, experience is more important than rank right now. Hyuga-sama told us we are on our own for now and we should rest," Lee spoke up, "but he also said for us to stay in contact. What should we do?" "I suggest we stay close together during our times off," Iruka answered. "It will be easier and faster to find us if we are close together. And also, neither of you should do any training. I know you both train a lot, but you need to be well rested at any moment's time." The two teenagers nodded in understanding. "So now that that's out of the way, does anyone have any suggestions on what to do?" Naruto suggested that they go get something good to eat because of the idea that they will have to rely on field rations once their duties start. The others nodded in agreement at this, but when Naruto suggested ramen, both denied the suggestion. When asked why, Lee said, "I really don't like ramen." And before Naruto could ask why, Iruka simply said, "Not everyone likes ramen, Naruto. And I'm in the mood for something different right now." He then turned to Lee and asked, "And what do you like?" "Udon," Lee answered. "Then I know just the place," Iruka said. "They have a good variety of food, including udon and ramen." "Well, as long as the place has ramen I don't care," Naruto said. "Then shall we go?" Iruka asked. He got an affirmative nod from both of the others and the three new teammates went off. The next day the team met up the same place as yesterday. There, Hiashi informed his team that a runner squad arrived late last night and informed the Hokage that they were in position at the border to Cloud. Another team of runners had already been sent off with a message confirming they received the message. As a result, the team was to be put on standby in case anything happened. So after they got their equipment they were to meet at the Hokage Tower and await orders. Naruto, after returning to his apartment to get his extra equipment, made his way to the Hokage Tower. On his way there, Sakura stopped him for a brief moment. They only discussed what their current duties were and left it at that. After the exchange, Naruto made his way to the tower. As a result of getting stopped by Sakura, he was the last to arrive. Fortunately, he was still on time and did not receive anything more than a question of why he was last. He answered a jounin stopped by to discuss his current duties, and after that the subject was dropped. The four were then sent to a room that was designated as the standby room for runner squads. There they went about their own devices to pass the time. The Ashi staked her a corner and entered a meditative state. Rock Lee went to the center of the room and began doing simple katas. After he moved some of the furniture, of course, Iruka went and looked over some of the current students at the academy. He was still a teacher, and after his assignment here, he would go back to teaching. And Naruto simply laid down on the couch that Lee had moved to get some sleep. After about 3 hours, Naruto and Hiashi opened their eyes and stood up facing the door. Their actions caught the attention of their two other companions, causing them to stop and look at the door as well. A few seconds later the door opened and Guy walked in. Before Rock Lee could greet him, Guy spoke, "Report to the Hokage immediately, there is a mission for you." In front of the Hokage the four assemble waiting for their mission. The time for the runners from Tsunade is up. We must assume that either the runners from Tsunade were ambushed or delayed because of an attack. If ours were delayed, then Tsunade would have sent a team to investigate and would have sent word to us. You are to head to Tsunade's camp and assess the situation and inform her that the last message we received was the confirmation that she was in place. Then you are to wait there for further instructions. The Hokage handed Hiashi a scroll and he then passed it on to Iruka. The team left the Hokage's office for the north gate. Along the way Hiashi told them that their primary objective was to get to Tsunade's camp. However, if they ran into any advanced parties, then, depending on their numbers, they were to take them out and search for any usable information. Once they left the village, Naruto was instructed to take point. He was chosen because he had proven to have superior senses to Iruka and Lee. Hiashi would take the rear because he could keep watch for pursuers and his squad with the Byakugan. Iruka was positioned behind Naruto because he was the slowest and would set the pace for the group. Rock Lee took the third position because of his speed, so he could come and support any of the others faster than anyone. For 2 hours the group traveled non-stop until Naruto signaled for a stop. Immediately the three others joined him and began scanning the area. Hiashi was the one to spot the intruders, indicating that 3 stone nins were close by. After a glance from everyone asking the unspoken question to attack, Hiashi gave the go-ahead to attack. The attack on the stone nins was quick and decisive. The stone nins had already been injured and were outnumbered and outskilled. Hiashi had taken out the leader by closing off the chakra holes near the heart. Naruto took out the one to the right of leader with a kick to the neck, and Lee killed the last by punching him in the chest, crushing his ribcage. Upon closer inspection of their gear, it turned out they had a correspondence from Konoha to Tsunade's forces. Meaning they were the ones to intercept the runners. Konoha must be informed that stone scouts are in the area. "I do not wish to do this, but I must split up the team," Hiashi ordered. "Iruka and Lee will return to Konoha and inform them of the situation. Naruto and I will continue on to the cloud border." The 3 subordinates complied and Iruka and Rock Lee left towards Konoha. "We must make up for the time we spent here." "Not a problem," Naruto said, and the pair took off. At the front lines with Tsunade, events were become rather confusing. The message from Konoha has been late by several hours. In response she sent out a team to investigate what happened. And now no word has come from them. On top of that, her scouts reported the sighting of the enemy camp just across the border, but when she sent an ambush squad to confirm it, the camp had vanished. Causing her more worry. If they made their position, then her camp would be open to attack, but if she moved, it would give a good opening for the cloud to invade. "Kakashi, has any word come in from our scouts on where the enemy camp could be located?" "I'm afraid not, Tsunade-sama," Kakashi informed. "Because of the rainstorms that continue to occur here, it is hard for the Inuzukas and their dogs to track anyone for very long. Even the Aburams and their bugs are having a hard time with all the wetness." "Damn, I don't like this," Tsunade said, shaking her head. The scouts reported a good-sized camp that probably had close to 100 shinobi. It's not exactly easy to move a camp of that size in only an hour's time. If the camp had been covered by Ninjutsu, then the Anbu would have been at least able to detect it, Kakashi said. There was a Hyuga within that squad, and he should have easily been able to spot one. "I know," Tsunade sighed. "I just wish I had more information." Tsunade was about to order Kakashi to send out another Anbu squad when a Chunin came up to her. "Tsunade-sama, one of the patrols ran into runners from Konoha. It looks like they went all out to get here and are extremely tired." "How many and who are they?" Tsunade asked. The Chunin answered, "They are Hyuga Hiashi and Uzumaki Naruto." "Take me to them," Tsunade ordered. "Kakashi, come with me." She did not even wait for a reply and left to find Naruto and Hiashi. Once she arrived where the 2 runners were being kept, she immediately called out to the Hyuga clan head, "Hyuga-sama, what news do you bring?" Hiashi turned to Tsunade and began to recant their mission from beginning to end. He told of her the messages not making it to Konoha, the run-in with the stone shinobi, and the subsequent split of the squad. Followed lastly by the decision not practically sprint the whole way here. Tsunade then in turn informed him what their current situation was and told the pair to rest up and meet her later. 2 hours passed and the 2 runners from Konoha were in a meeting with Tsunade discussing what should be done. I have already sent 2 runner squads back to Konoha. We are currently waiting for a squad from Jireya's forces as well. Are they overdue? Naruto asked. No, Tsunade answered, but the normal travel time is coming up soon. And considering your report of stone nins already in Fire Country, they may be delayed. If they become late, I would not hesitate to send a recon team to find them, Hiashi suggested. I agree, Tsunade nodded. Kakashi, tell Asuma's team to be on standby. Kakashi nodded and left. In the meantime, what do you want us to do? Hiashi asked. I would like you to remain and help with any strategy sessions while you are here, Tsunade answered. Naruto, I want you to get some rest. We may need you in case of a fight, or we need an extra runner. Naruto nodded silently and left. After Naruto got something to eat, he decided to wander around the camp for a bit. Being that half his squad was back in Konoha and his leader was helping with strategy sessions, meant that he was kind of the odd man out for a while. One thing he did appreciate about the whole situation was that no one was giving him any cold stares. He figured that it was because everyone had too much on his or her minds to pay attention to him. Regardless of the reason, he was still thankful for the reprieve from the usual looks he received. After a bit of wondering, he had a good idea of the layout of the camp and figured he should get at least some sleep and made his way to his tent. As he was about to enter his tent, a voice called out to him, "Hey Naruto." Turning, Naruto spotted Shikamaru coming up to him. I heard you were in camp. Yeah, I arrived about half an hour ago, Naruto said. Shouldn't you be in the strategy meetings? I mean, that's what you were brought here for, right? Yeah, that's why I was dragged along, Shikamaru sighed, but the meeting ended a few minutes ago. And since there's nothing more me to do and watching the clouds isn't as relaxing in wartime, I figured I could hit you up for a game of shogi. I guess one game couldn't hurt, Naruto thought out loud, but afterwards I will need to get some sleep. Shikamaru nodded in agreement and the two entered the tent to play a quick game. After a game of about a dozen moves, Naruto surrendered, seeing that he could not win. Shikamaru left and Naruto lay down to get some sleep. He was not asleep long before he was awakened by some commotion outside his tent. Getting up to investigate, he saw a squad of scouts running through the camp. Like everyone else who was disturbed, Naruto got up to join the others follow the scouts. He followed them directly to Tsunade's tent and overheard them saying, "The Cloud are on the move."